Sit down, boy. I'll make you my host. You will suffer the same as your father did while absorbing grade 7 spirit pill, Fenrir said as he stood up, towering like a mountain. I still remember father's face. Twisted in anguish. It was tormenting for father, Ezra answered in a dim tone. You scared? The wolf inquired. Are you stupid or what? I said it was tormenting for father. Not for me. Bring it on. I told you that I'll surpass your expectations. The prince boldly claimed and sat in crossed legs position. The prince of Bloodfang Kingdom did as he was told and sat. Fenrir raised his leg. The shadow of Fenrir's paw covered Ezra's entire body and side by area. Wherever the shadow reached, a magic formation was drawn. The size and design were the same as that of Fenrir's paw. Focus now. Ezra boy, the wolf of Norse said as he turned into black mist. The black mist made a cluster above Ezra like some storm-brimming clouds. Soon the dense cloudy mist became haze and coalesced within the formation. The land started to shake. And the strange letters on formation were glowing with black mist. For the first time in a while, Ezra's heart pounded like the hooves of a horse. Ezra closed his eyes to calm his mind. The mist gradually emerged from the formation and made its way to the chest of the werewolf prince. The formation started to become vague as the mist emerged. The moment when black mist completely went inside Ezra's chest was the moment formation vanished as if it was never been there. Fenrir successfully made Ezra his host. The giant wolf of Norse looked within the conscious of Ezra and moved with caution, waiting for a certain TG to make its appearance. Fenrir heard something and quickly turned his head. There was a greenish-blue lightning snake. It was slightly smaller in size than Fenrir. Its body was completely made from lightning. A bolt of strange yet powerful lightning, not found within the lower realm. Fenrir squinted his eyes in astonishment. It's the lightning of Olympian god Zeus. Anger reddened his eyes as he asked furiously, how did you get into the lower realm? Instead of answering, the thunder Ophidian hissed at Fenrir, but its hissing made a strange noise of bire. Should I consider it as the failure of negotiation? Fenrir retorted. The Ophidian didn't pay any importance to the words of Fenrir and plunged at him. The black wolf raised his foot and at the calculated time when the Ophidian was in range, he smashed the head of the Ophidian down with his paw. Know your place. O puny figment of Zeus. You have tortured my boy for years. Now it's time for retribution. Soon. The Mount of Olympus will also crumble under the feet of a man called Ezra Zephyr. After finishing the sentence, Fenrir opened his mouth. Aside from the sharp teeth, there was nothing except a pit of darkness. Tongue, mouth muscles and other things were absent. Fenrir whispered a word inside his mind, black hole. A tremendous sucking force came from the mouth of the wolf. The thunder Ophidian curse was sucked inside and disappeared within seconds. There was a reason why Fenrir's mouth looked like a black pit. Because the mouth of Fenrir was an actual black hole, holding an unopposing vacuum power. That's how he gulped down the sun and devoured Odin during Ragnarok. His power made the gods tremble in fear. That monstrous evil wolf of Norse has returned once again. No one knew what calamity was about to befall the lower realm. Fenrir's current grade was only 1. After eating the thunder Ophidian curse, his body started to produce extreme lightning power. Now it was up to Ezra how he handled that power. What a power! That curse would have become a spirit if we had waited a year more. Fenrir pondered. Ezra, on the other hand, was unflinching by the pain. Boy. Can you hear me? He heard the voice of Fenrir. Yes. I can. Did you succeed? He replied. Yes, and I devoured the curse within you. It's up to you now. Don't disappoint me, boy. Ezra didn't answer and closed his eyes again. The power within him surged. He felt many things. Myriad types of power. But he never lost focus on his soul. He had to design it. A feature, a body to contain the force. A structure that uniquely utilizes the force. The soul force his intelligence was created was like a lump of raw meat. 3 types of force were in Ezra's mind, fighting each other for supremacy. The darkness of Fenrir, thunder of Ophidian curse, and the soul that he wanted to design. At that time he thought of someone. A being that never lost his faith in Ezra. His beloved father, Mirza Zephyr. How did father manage to balance the power from grade 7? Spirith pondered. Ezra was searching for a hint. The only thing making the process look easy was the pain endurance of Ezra. He suffered torture-like training and endured the pain. Unlike his father, who turned into his werewolf form, father's endurance was less than mine. Then why? I know he had chi not force, but there should be a hint. For Ezra, his father's spirit upgradation was the only practical example he saw. There should be something. There should be something. There should be some. Wait a minute. The prince finally got the hint he wanted. A big blast occurred. Hobgoblin was shocked and the two wolf cubs retreated as well. The cave protector, J. Tun, rushed out right away. Dust emerged and the eyes of all locked on where Ezra was. The J. Tun flinched and knelt. Greets master. Hobgoblin understood and knelt as well. I greet my new master. Unlike the previous duo, the two wolf cubs bared their fangs at Ezra, ready to attack. Ezra came out of the dust. A black thick lightning waltzed around Ezra Zephyr. A sinister dark lightning force was what Ezra made. Where is God Xander? He is at the hill, a hill near Mount Olympus, completely covered in clouds. Hundreds of flashes of lightning descended on that hill every second. On the hill was a certain individual meditating. You felt that, Xander? The martial spirit of that individual said. Yes. Someone destroyed our symbol in the lower realm. He replied, not destroyed. Absorbed. How could this be? Is there anyone there with a spirit that can absorb? Maybe it's a martial animal. Or maybe Fenrir. The individual's eyebrow flinched. How is this possible? After a moment of silence, the spirit spoke. Yes. It's not possible. We witnessed the downfall of Fenrir with his last host, the wicked werewolf Bjorn Zephyr. Indeed. Even if he comes back from death, I don't have a reason to be afraid. What can Fenrir possibly do to me? I'm the one who has the god of sky Zeus as his martial spirit. Xander said arrogantly. Zeus was discreet. Don't underestimate Fenrir. He is one of the very few beings who terrorized the gods. Xander calmed down. The lightning vanished all of a sudden. Tell me, Zeus. Did he also terrorize you in past? Before I became your host? He was deliberate in asking. Zeus gave a haughty smile before answering that mud is not worthy. Ezra Zephyr calmly peered at the wild undulate lightning, worshipping his body. Ezra felt a huge surge of power, overflowing. He opened all of his 8 gates and reached the door of Chi brightening stage. You are no less of a monster than me. Boy, Fenrir exclaimed. How did you build such force? The prince's mind was absent. He has yet to believe that he now possesses the qualification to walk on the path of strength. Is this a dream? He pondered. Even after witnessing what is known to be unbelievable, his emotions couldn't stop rising. A weak boy who always suffered torment. A mother who always cried looking at her womb born, and a father who kept cursing himself for his powerlessness. All of these problems were solved by a single entity, Fenrir. Ezra's eyes started to fill with salty water. It's been years since he last cried. We don't have time for this drama. Hurry up and answer me, moronic lad. The monstrous wolf who became the martial spirit of Ezra interrupted the emotional climax of the hero. A martial spirit can understand and feel the emotions of its host. Not to mention a spirit like Fenrir. The prince wide opened his eyes and slowly shut his eyelids down, absorbing the incoming tears in his eyelashes. I figured it out after remembering father's spirit. The wolf understood right away. But, to be bolder in his presumption, he said. Explain. The well-built Ezra sighed. How did I get such an idiotic spirit after suffering such means? Answer the damn question. Smart-ass boy. The wolf of Norse retorted. The prince guffawed. It was a joke. Don't it too hard. Well, I knew the first spirit of my father. A burning wolf, having fire chi. Then I asked my father about the spirit in the cubic pill before coming here. He told me the details, and it was a 6-winged griffin. The new spirit father achieved was a burning wolf with 6 wings. The two spirits merged and gave birth to a new entity. If the spirits can be merged, then why not 3 attributes? That's the question that came to my mind after pondering for a long. Ezra explained. Fenrir was quiet for a quite while. Deep inside he was praising Ezra. This is exactly what he calculated when Ezra said father spirit. I guessed it correctly. Fenrir uttered. I guessed it correctly, my ass. You clueless dog. The werewolf prince spoofed and laughed. After some sarcastic jokes, Ezra reeled his head. The two cubs were baring their fangs at him. while Mose and Hobgoblin knelt in respect. What happened to these cubs? Ezra asked Fenrir. They are in the belief that I am dead. But they are still confused, because your black lightning has my darkness in it. Use your force once again and call me out. How can I call you out? It's my first focus on me inside your body. Raise the black lightning. It's all about your will. The prince did as he was told. Barbaric black lightning flickered and one black orb appeared behind him. The same lightning gyrated around it. The humongous wolf appeared once again. The cubs looked at their father. Fenrir looked at them with gentle eyes. The cubs howled dimly and ran towards Ezra. No doubt that they understood the meaning behind Fenrir's loving glance. The cubs started jumping and licked Ezra's feet and legs just because they couldn't reach his torso. Boy. They are born from my bloodline. After my real children died, I made these two clones from their parts. Treat them like your brothers. They possess the highest quality of bloodline. This pretty form of cubs is not their original form. When they'll awake their true forms, their nature and powers will come with it. The cerulean one is Hati, the one who hates. In his previous life, he chased the moon in Ragnarok. He possesses extreme frost force. The crimson cub is SKLL, the one who mocks and chased the sun. SKLL has pulverizing fire as his force. Don't even compare your fathers with it. They will be like your strong arms, protecting and guiding you in every path of life, except when you bang some cheeks. Ezra bent down and rubbed their ears and neck. The cubs accept him as his own. The prince stood up. He wanted to confirm something. He stepped towards a tree. He pointed his finger and touched the big thick tree. Black lightning flickered from his finger and made his way towards the tree like a hungry reptile. Ezra squinted his eyes. It didn't show any fancy effect. Sigh, I already got more than I dreamed of. One shouldn't be greedy, he said to himself as he pivoted backwards. Wait. Boy. Look carefully. Fenrir alerted the prince. Ezra looked at the tree again. Black lightning was still there, puzzling him. The tree started to crack. The thin branches began to twine and tear, and the leaves fell dead. The prince's eyes widened. Same with Jaunt and Hobgoblin. While the two cubs didn't pay any heed, Fenrir intervened in their surprise and spoke. I was not amazed by how you managed to merge 3 different attributes. It was the force you made that astounded me. Your force may have the shape of lightning, but unlike other bolts of lightning which cause muscle pain, hearing loss, seizures and burns, yours is an exception. You have developed lightning that twists, rives and grinds the object. You are weak now. Only at the first level of chi brightening stage. So, the effect of your force is frail and the tree was massive. However, if you use it on any martial master of the same level as yours, he will face cruel black bolts, possessing the power to tear his cardiovascular system into pieces. Ezra was bewildered. He looked at his hands full of rough calluses. He clenched his fist hard. Fenrir explained further as an example. The green color is secondary. It is made by mixing 2 binary colors. Yellow and blue. Darkness, soul and lightning. Consider them primary attributes. They merged and made a secondary attribute. Chaos. That's the name I like to give your force. Ezra sat down, both hands on the ground and gazed at the sunlight, piercing its way through the leaves. He smiled and asked, Fenrir, did I exceed your expectations? Fenrir chuckled. Yes, boy. You did. Fenrir, why do you want me to have a force of soul attribute? Asked the prince. The possessor of force can use chi skills and mana spells alike. Unlike cultivators and sorcerers who are bound to one type. There was a mad scientist, thousands of years ago, Elon Resla, elder brother of my 47th host. He fancied necromancy. He spent his entire life focusing on a delusional single spell. A spell that can completely revive a dead being. Bound it to obey. Heal it when it's injured and call him at will. After countless years of work and experiments, he announced the spell I have created is omnipotent. But it will only work on martial animals. One must have all 5 necessary attributes to learn it. This is all he had revealed. He was assassinated the next day. And people forgot about him. But not his brother. My 47th host, Rhinon Resla. He went to his brother's lab, collected all the necessary documents and written thesis before setting the lab on fire. burning all the remains of his brother. But Rhinon could not learn it himself, because he lacked the soul attribute. After he died at the hands of my enemies, I tried to teach the spell to my 48th host, say Otho, and 49th host, which is your great-grandfather, Bjorn Zephyr. But both failed to design a force that has soul attribute. The wolf explained. So only I succeed. Ezra uttered proudly. Your chaos force will be a nightmare for your enemies. What are the 5 necessary attributes that mad scientist talked about? Prince asked in curiosity. Soul magic, blood magic, black magic, curative magic, and teleportation magic. These are the 5 necessary attributes. Each one is rare, and it is next to impossible to find all in one person. Ezra scratched his head. Before meeting Fenrir, he didn't know there existed soul and blood magic. The lower realm is weak and poor by a large margin compared to the upper realm. The gods and other beings never paid any attention to the lower realm. There is also an unknown power opposing higher powerhouses to descend onto the lower realm. That's why Bjorn Zephyr destroyed his cultivation to hide in the lower realm. When Ezra knew that his family belonged to the upper realm, he was astounded to the point where his eyes paused in complete disbelief. Ezra calmed his mind and inquired, what about the other 4 attributes? I don't have those. I have them. I devoured countless martial spirits in my all 49 lives as a spirit. My darkness possesses the fragments of all other attributes except soul. Now that I am your spirit, all fragments are merged into your chaos force. You are a walking disaster, Ezra. Never underestimate yourself, but always be wary of your surroundings. Even if you are wilder of a mighty force, your cultivation is in a shit state. I will provide you with the ways to become omnipotent without an early death. All you have to do is to listen. Haha. I'll try my best. Ezra giggled and replied. As expected of a rascal. If your blabbering is over, why not we hurry up and start learning that spell? Prince said. Fenrir nodded in disgust and spoke. You must remember the equation of spells formula. Feel the symbols of magic language. Magic language? Ezra asked in curiosity. Yes, magic language. It's made of symbols. Each attribute like water, air, soul and others has its own symbols. Only those who possess sorcery-based martial spirits can feel those symbols, even if they are not educated. After that, they calculate and solve the equation of those symbols and create a spell. Sorcery is much more difficult than cultivation. Chi skills are the usage of chi to perform a damaging feat. Skill is based on the physique or weapon mastery of a cultivator. Any cultivator, regardless of their chi attribute, can learn a skill if he or she has a suitable physique or suitable mastery over the weapon. Sit and calm your mind. I will project the formula of the spell in your mind. Memorize and feel it slowly. Don't be hasty. Be perfect. The werewolf prince sat down and focused on what he was about to see. Fenrir projected a formula, and Ezra squinted his closed eye. It's a pentagon and strange 5 big symbols on each side. There is a circle in middle. Small symbols from each side are placed in line, having their way to the middle circle, where the 6th big symbol is located. Indeed, this is as you saw. It will take weeks or even months for you to feel those symbols and decipher the meaning behind them. Keep doing until you are exhausted. Fenrir guided after a few hours. The prince spoke. I can feel what's written in it. I can read it. What? Fenrir was shocked. Is he a prodigy? Only a few in my lifetime have deciphered the formula of a 10th class spell in a day, and they are absolute gods now. Fate won't betray me this time, I guess. Fenrir pondered, and said to Ezra, you took too much time to decipher it. Pathetic kobold prince. Explain what's written in it. The first side has the symbol of black and the line says death is cessation. Death is the norm. Thyn death shalt make you reborn. The second side symbol indicates blood, it says blood in sight. Grip on veins. Arteries at hold on one shalt put reins. 3rd side has curative symbol that has the lines as heal Thyn body. Heal Thyn soul. Glare at the foe. Thou lt be unhurt in bout. Then comes the 4th, teleportation. Heed my call. Hearken my wish. Go at my order and come at my will. And the last 5th soul. Life is a gift. My desire is Thyn goal. Thou live to fight. Possessing my soul, these are all the lines on every side of the pentagon. The young prince deciphered it symbol by symbol in words. Fenrir was astounded. He quickly asked, "What about the middle? What it says? Isn't it obvious?" "It says, chaos," the prince uttered as a grin. Fenrir sighed in disbelief. A monster indeed. He said to himself, "Boy, did you remember all the symbols of the pentagon formula?" Fenrir asked. "Yes. I memorized all," the prince boldly claimed. "Now carve it into a chant. How you do it is all up to you. The symbols can only be felt by the same attribute user, which means they are not letters readable for everyone. Choose a chant that will activate the spell and carve that pentagon in that spell chant." Fenrir guided. "What kind of chant? Any suggestion?" "No, boy. It's all up to you, as I said earlier. You will be the one who will use that spell, not me. See the characteristics of the spell and imagine yourself performing it. Now think of words suitable for chant." Ezra squinted his eyes. The pentagon of spell was projected in front of him. After pondering for quite a while, he murmured, "Answer your master." The entire pentagon and the formula on it became vivid. Instead of the pentagon, those 3 words echoed in Ezra's mind. The fusion of the formula into the words was completed, thus creating a mythical spell that will make even necromancers tremble in fear. Ezra took a deep breath and stood up. "I've done it, Fenrir. Anything else you request this prince to do?" Ezra teased the wolf. "I'll call it Fenrir's blessing." Ezra Zephyr didn't pay a second to answer. "What?" astounded wolf uttered. "This spell is your gift, so it will own your name as well. After all, we share life and death now. Aren't we, my friend?" the prince said with a smile. It was the genuine smile that Fenrir has ever felt. Fenrir replied, "Me? A friend of yours? The sheer thought of how ignorant a kobold prince can be makes me puke. You are nothing but a pawn in my plans, ha ha ha. You wanna be God?" "That was a nice 1 inch. The prince laughed. They both can feel each other's emotions. Regardless of the words, they both knew what the other is feeling. After successfully learning Fenrir's blessing, Ezra pivoted to Hobgoblin and Jot N, who were kneeling before him. The prince said, "Both of you, stand up." There was a texture of dominance in his voice. "M.S. Bring me the remaining cubic spirit pills," he ordered. "As you wish, master." Mosa dashed towards the cave. As he answered, the prince looked at Hobgoblin and said, "All this time I have been wondering about one thing about you. What is it, master?" The Hobgoblin respectfully asked. "Your name." "Pardon?" The Hobgoblin was confused. "I don't know about your name. Hobgoblin is your race's name. What's yours?" "I apologize, master, but your servant does not have 1 inch." The Hobgoblin replied. "You do not have a name?" "I had one. But being frozen for centuries here, I cannot recall my name. My memories of the past are not intact except the memories of me mastering the whip. I remember his name." The voice of Fenrir came to Ezra's mind. Ezra hummed and tapped on Hobgoblin's shoulder. "From now onwards, your name is Didera." Hobgoblin's eyes widened. Didera. A flash of memories rushed into his mind. His eyes turned watery. He controlled his sobbing and replied, "Thank you, master, don't cry. Didera. I'll only need strong men, not crybabies." Ezra strictly stopped. No compassion or leniency was shown in his gestures. Ezra gave a tentative look over his shoulder and said to a certain someone, "Did you get them all?" "Yes, master. Your slave brought all the cubic pills containing martial spirits." The Jod-N answered. The 2 boxes were brought before the prince. One had the number 6 written on it, while the other had the number 7. Ezra opened a box. There were 84 6th-grade spirit cubes. "Show me your martial spirit," the prince ordered Didera. The Hobgoblin was shocked at first, but quickly released his spirit after. 5 orbs started to rotate behind Didera. A strange-looking demon, reddish in the skin, protruded tusks, and 8 arms, each hand holding a whip. "Your attribute is weapon enhancement. No wonder your whipping was so cruel. Pick a suitable 6th-grade spirit for yourself. You have to be more powerful for the task I'll give you," said Ezra. Didera nodded and looked for a spirit for himself. His sight landed on a cube, inside which was a demon. His current spirit is a demon as well. Nice choice he made. Ezra said to himself. Didara picked up his cube and went to consume it. Meanwhile, Ezra yawned in boredom. Fenrir, what will happen if I consume all these cubes? Now that I have you, I can see that you are a useless first-grade spirit. Feed me spirits and my grade will go up. Fenrir carelessly answered, unwilling to be provoked by Ezra's trolls. Ezra's eyebrows frowned. So, you mean you can also reach 8th grade? I can reach 9th grade and more. But it's not possible in this realm. As for the cubic pills, if you consume them all, I will reach 6th grade because cubic pills are less powerful than spirits possessing a host. 10 cubic spirit pills will be equal to a host possessing spirit. Fenrir explained. Let's consume them. Shall we? The prince extended his hand and picked a 6th grade cubic pill. He swallowed it. The spirit entered his consciousness and before long, it was devoured by Fenrir. His gigantic black mouth, akin to a black hole, sucked the spirit inside. Ezra, on the other hand, didn't feel any pain. Instead, he felt warmth. Chaos force flickered and slowly the warmth turned into explosive energy. With a huge wave of energy, the chaos force became slightly thicker and more violent. 2 orbs started to rotate behind Ezra. He pivoted his head to look at them. 2nd grade. His eyes widened. And he kept looking at the new orb. He was not surprised. He was looking at them with erect excitement. A wicked grin formed on his face when Fenrir said, hurry up, boy. The outside world is waiting for us. The black bolts were dancing around the Prince of Bloodfang Kingdom. He opened his eyes and 6 orbs rotated behind his back as he revealed his martial spirit. The monstrous wolf of Norse Fenrir. I can feel it. My force. It's way more powerful than it was before. He uttered. There are 2 things you must remember. One is quality and the other is quantity. The quality of chaos force will increase as I devour more martial spirits, while the quantity of your force will depend on the main source of it, which is soul. Fenrir explained. I understand. Ezra said as he stood and went towards the same tree he used his force on before. Ezra touched the tree and bolts twirled on his hand. Snaking towards the tree instantly. The tree started to twist. And within a minute the humongous tree became like an entangled rope. Your power is otherworldly. Master. A familiar voice came. Ezra turned and looked. It was none other than the hobgoblin. Didara. Did you succeed? He asked. Yes, master. Take a look, please. Didara revealed his spirit. A demon with no skin. And no face. It was made of pure muscles. Emitting Arachi power. Very good. You didn't disappoint me. Shall we go out now? Wait. Master. Mosu spoke. Ezra glared at him. After that incident in the cave, he understood that a Jod-en can only be tamed by a power even if he is under a slave curse. What is it? He questioned. Previous master left some types of equipment for you. I was ordered to inform you once you complete your training here, master. Ah. I remember. Bring them here. Mosu bowed and in a flash, he brought a big rectangular box. Ezra opened it. There was a suit of leather. A black-colored suit. There were 2 silver arm bracers and 2 leg bracers. And cuirass. They were not ordinary at all. There were multiple runes inscribed on them. Wanna be God? You still want me to wear those heavy bracers? Ezra frowned. Shut up and wear them. Fenrir retorted. Ezra sighed and looked at other items. He saw a long coat. With wolf-shaped shoulder plates. All of these were of the highest quality of style that can shame nobles dressing of lower realm. Ezra moved his eyes and saw a short sword. Slightly radiating in sky blue color. A tortuously sharp blade that is well accustomed to slicing through flesh, bones and whatnot. The handle was made of a strange wood. One that Ezra had never seen. Not even in books. Beside it was a hook. A purple-tinted one. The point was accurate and sharp. The sides had small scary needles, assuring that the prey never escapes once hooked. Ezra picked them up. They were perfect in everything. Something shined. Ezra squinted his eyes and found that there was a thin chain connecting them. As thin as spider's silk. Haha, just like my training weapons. No. They are of the highest quality. The handle of the hook and sword is made from Yggdrasil's branch, a sacred tree of Norse. The blade and hook are made from mystic URU metal. The blade was later dipped in Kvaser's blood for sharpness, and the hook was mixed in either substance to absorb venom. Both items were made by a dwarf broker, the one who works with metal fragments. The short sword is called Efsa, which means cut in Nordic language, while the hook is named Dripa, means hold dot. Ah. The chain. Fenrir sighed as he remembered those days when he was betrayed. This chain is called Gleipnit. It is impossible to break this chain because it was made from 6 impossible things. Impossible things? Ezra was puzzled. Yes. The stomping of cat. The beards of women. The roots of mountains. The spit of birds. The breath of fish and the sinew of a bear. This chain was made by the sons of Ivaldi. It was made to hold me till the end of the world. Ragnarok. I broke the bonds and killed Odin. This is the item your great-grandfather Bjorn Zephyr risked his life for before descending into the lower realm. We managed to steal it. After a series of silence, Ezra spoke. Pond. What? Fenrir couldn't understand. Is there a pond nearby? I have to take bath before going out? You insolent. Fenrir tried his best to control his anger. Yes. There is. Ezra went to get refreshed. He asked Hobgoblin to cut his long messy hair and wore the items as he returned. By the end of it, he looked dignified man. A tall handsome face. Jet black hair leaned backwards. A unique long coat in an era of cloaks. Those wolf shoulders were no less than a marvel of a designer. His bracers and cuirass became invisible as he wore them. He placed his dual weapons on both sides of his waist. Skoll, Hattie and Didera. You 3 will come out with me. He then looked at Jot N. Mosu. I'll leave this cave under your care. The consequences of disappointing me will be torturous. You understand? Yes, master. This slave will rather die than disappoint master. The Jot N answered in utter submission. Now that Ezra has become the owner of this hidden place, he no longer needed Fenrir to come and go. A little guidance from Fenrir was all he needed, and a flash of light engulfed him when the light ended. He found himself in front of the Fenrir statue. He was about to step forward when he saw an individual. The eyes of Prince could no longer handle the flood of tears. M.O. Mother! Ezra Zephyr broke out in tears before his word could escape his mouth. In a dusky grotto, light out of nowhere began to accumulate over a stone stage. Space vibrated as a flash of light occurred. A lady who was sitting on a chair in the very grotto, desperately waiting for someone precious. The sudden light stole her attention. She closed her eyes as they couldn't fight back the gleam. The poor attired lady's head was in a daze after encountering the sheen. She rubbed her temple, attempting to mitigate the discomfort. M.O. Mother? A blissful and shocked voice could be heard from the front when the light dispersed. The lady raised his head and saw Ezra Zephyr in front of the wolf statue, looking at her in sheer bewilderment. The lady's eyes widened. She clenched the arms of the chair and stood forcefully. Tears coursed down her cheeks as she asked Ezra. My poor son. Is that you? Yes. Mother. I'm back, said the prince as he stepped forward. You gave me immense pain. Why did you leave your mother for so long? Tanya's eyes were loaded up with eagerness as she immediately strolled forward. Around 5 years earlier, she had seen Ezra Zephyr leaving the regal royal castle with his father but didn't come back. That memory of that sight had frightened her incredibly and caused her to be at loss. At the point when Ezra saw Tanya's appearance, his mother was always considered the one with a marvelous sense of dressing. But this time her clothes were those of commoners. He comprehended that her mother had likely been mourning herself to death here and felt rather unfortunate. The werewolf prince hugged his mother instead of answering. That hug lasted for many half an hour. During the entire time, Ezra kept consoling her mother while her tears completely declined the suggestion to stop. Ezra thought of something in his head and immediately said, Mother, my 8 gates have been opened. What? Tanya was shocked. In surprise, her hand quickly slapped onto Ezra Zephyr's chest. A surge of mana entered Ezra's body to test. The result was unbelievable. A few seconds later, as her hand automatically began to shake, she was overwhelmed with feeling as she intensely hugged Ezra again. Great. Incredible. Brilliant. It is genuinely a gift from our God. The sky has not shut its ways to our werewolf race. Tanya's voice was marginally shaking. And her eyes had become damp. It was not difficult to envision how profound she as of now was. Ezra's inability to open the 8 gates had been a thistle in Tanya's heart. She had felt that it was a direct result of her and her husband's feebleness as parents in those days that Ezra's spirit was taken by Duke Brownmane upon entering the world, making him in that hopeless state. Queen Tanya and her husband King Mirza had sought out each medicine available. However, not even one of them could help Ezra open his 8 gates. Consequently, they could put their last expectation on the mystery that had been passed down in their red werewolf family. And now, it looked like the god was still looking after their werewolf race. Amidst of mother and son's reunion, Ezra felt a powerful chi coming their way at astonishing speed. Within a blink of an eye, an individual entered the grotto. A 6 feet 4 inches tall man, with long black hair and full beard, gem-red pupils like Ezra, was King Mirza Zephyr. The eyes of father and son met. He dashed forward and held Ezra tightly in his embrace. My Ezra. You came back. You are at chi brightening stage. What about the Thunder Ophidian curse? Did you get rid of it, son? It's gone, father. I defeated the curse. I can walk on the path of martial prowess now, the prince said. Mirza looked at his son, from head to feet. Not just once, but many times. My son is almost as tall as me now. Such a handsome and talented boy I have. A warm emotion streamed in Ezra's heart when he saw such a look on the typically quiet and stately Mirza Zephyr. The former stretched his arms and daintily pressed Mirza Zephyr's wide shoulders as he delicately grinned and said, "Don't worry, father. We will make sure to reclaim everything our werewolf race has lost." Mirza Zephyr gathered himself a little as he boldly nodded. It was at this very second that he looked behind Ezra and saw a strange creature resembling a goblin and 2 adorable-looking wolf cubs, cautiously looking at him back. Who are they? Ezra? The king was at a total loss as he looked at his son. Clearly, didn't have the foggiest idea why Ezra would get back with a strange creature and cubs. After seeing this, the prince began to depict all that he had seen and what had occurred in the secret of space. Subsequent to tuning in, Mirza Zephyr was quiet for quite a while before he spoke. So you were saying that the god Fenrir we pray to is your martial spirit and he dislikes being called a god. Not only that, your spirit can level up its grade as well and you can use force like martial animals. Not to mention, these cubs are martial animals of pure bloodline. And that hobgoblin is evolved species of goblin race. Having said this, Mirza Zephyr uncovered a comforting smile to the lady and said, "My queen. You have given birth to a genius?" Ezra scratched his head as he smiled. Hobgoblin never even thought of Ezra having such a tender side in him. This hobgoblin's name is Didera and he is here to be the personal guard of mother, the prince said as he gestured towards Didera. The smart hobgoblin quickly knelt and spoke. "I give my respect to the king and queen raised Didera. You are part of our kingdom now. I will arrange a room for you in our castle so that you can be by Queen's side all the time." Didara's big head daintily nodded when he heard this as her rough and thick voice sounded. "I'll give the best of my services. You must give your best. If a single hair of mother is damaged, you will be held responsible for it." Ezra Zephyr glared at Didera after his cold warning. The latter flinched and slightly shuddered. Mirza and Tanya looked at each other and then pivoted their sight at Ezra and said, "Since your concern has proactively been addressed, let us get ready to get back to Red Sky City. There is someone you must meet. Be respectful when you see him." Ezra nodded. Deep inside, he became curious about this new person. The 6 of them followed the exit way out of the cave and as soon as they stepped out Ezra's eyes fell on the Imperial Guards. In the front row were 9 strong young men, the 9 supernovas. The army gave a respectful salute and knelt right after. "We welcome the Crown Prince, Ezra Zephyr." The united voice echoed like a war horn. The king of Bloodfang Kingdom went on to instruct supernovas to get ready. A breeze brushed at his face. The familiar atmosphere and air hit Ezra differently. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Ezra. Eyes full of wonder, questions and expectations. Ezra strolled down the 9,999 stairs of the pyramid and delicately said, "Supernovas. Report before the prince." Within a blink, 9 outstanding youths arrived before him and respectfully knelt. It's been a long time. Hasn't it, Brother Rocky? Ezra said as he looked at first supernova. Rock White Fong. Haha, indeed. Prince Ezra. We are very glad to see you again. We have been working hard to fight beside you since you left, and all of us have reached Foundation establishment stage. Me and Yanni Galearms are at mid-7th level. The rest are at early 7th level or peak 6th level of Foundation establishment stage. Except for the youngest Ivar Rathside. Rocky answered. Ezra remembered the weak boy Ivar. He looked at him, and what Ezra saw was a completely different person. A ferocious and powerful beast. He smiled at him and said, "You have reached the peak of Foundation establishment stage's 7th level. Very impressed, my friend. Crown Prince. It's all because of you. Now my mother is happy with me, and she ordered me to pay your kindness with my life as my father did." Ivar Rathside said. Ezra's strong hand delicately stroked his hair as he looked into the distance. Before long, he showed an evil grin to Supernovas. "Don't worry. I'm not someone with the character of sacrificing lives. I will make sure that those Lion Man bastards taste the agony created by our blood and hatred." The scene of Ezra sent chills to all 9. Ivar's eyes widened. Ever since he started training, he surpassed his seniors and never backed down from a spar or training. But this time, his instincts were telling him to avoid this person. What is this sudden fear? What happened to the prince when he was inside the grotto? He questioned himself, and he was not the only one. The remaining 8 had the same thoughts. The most surprised one was Rocky, as he was the one who knew about Ezra the most. What is with his sinister energy? Is he the same innocent Ezra that we knew of? Ezra's quiet and cold voice contained a horrific fragment that made Supernovas shake a bit. Even they were way stronger than Ezra. To the point where their one swing could kill the prince. I didn't know you had such good impression in your kingdom. The monstrous wolf of Norse finally spoke. Oh. You are alive. I thought you died when we teleported. The prince retorted. So these are the people you gave 6th grade spirits cubes. How disappointing. 5 years and they couldn't reach soul formation stage. Except for that Ivar lad who is passable, the rest is just a pile of trash. Such a shame you wasted cubes on them. Fenrir said his piece. Ezra Zephyr sighed. This is as fast as they could. Stop complaining. Complaining? I stated facts. Upper realm people would have reached nascent soul stage in 5 years. Ezra wanted to cuss him loud, but controlled his fury. Sometimes I wonder if you are what you said you are. You are comparing the upper realm with this lower realm? Wise men were right when they said, common sense is not so common. Did you just call me dumb? Fenrir was enraged, while Ezra didn't bother to answer him. When he rode on Blazing Tail Pony and made some distance from Pyramid, a wave of energy emerged from Pyramid and stuck to Ezra Zephyr's wrist. Ezra looked at his wrist. It was a bracelet with Fenrir's head on it. This is your spatial item. The entire timber and cave is inside of it. Thanks for making it look stylish. The familiar roads, gates and castle. The aroma of incense burning and sparrows chirping on the large windows of the castle. Ezra was lost in thoughts of the past when he was interrupted by his father. Let's go this way, son. They took a route and arrived inside an ancient room. The king looked at the shelf and dragged his finger on the books before tilting a certain old book. The room started to quake. The wall slid sideways and a secret path was opened. When they went inside, there was a gigantic room. It was made for training. Walls had strange ancient runes that makes the room sturdy. The prince's gaze ultimately paused on a recliner in the very middle of the room, where an old man in black was peacefully resting as he gently rocked back and forth, as if he had sensed Ezra's gaze. The old man opened his eyes and looked at the former. The young man's pulse increased faintly when he saw the old man's eyes. Those eyes were filled with an indescribable ancientness, as if they had experienced countless eons. At the same time, Ezra Zephyr was able to feel a thick, declining and decaying aura cloaking the old man. As if he was a ferocious beast trapped in a cage, losing all hopes to get back his freedom. Seeing all that, instead of worrying, the prince smiled wickedly and uttered, "Interesting?" "Pardon?" Mirza said. "Who is he, father?" Ezra asked his father. The old man vanished all of a sudden. Ezra's senses came into action and he put force in his left foot and swung. His kick tore the air and moved brutally. The kick hit the old man, who appeared behind Ezra. Was it a fluke or you saw my movements? The old man asked as he stared at the prince. Looking closely, the prince knew that the old man was huge. He was 6 feet 6 inches tall. I calculated. Ezra replied, You calculated? The old man was curious. I knew that you are no enemy because father brought me here and he paid huge respect to you. Apart from that, when you moved, father was smiling instead of being afraid that his only son might get hurt. That showed you were testing me, and this move of yours was done in order to brag about your power. Very common move explained in novels. Using speed to reach behind and shock people. That's how I calculated and sent a kick as a meeting gift. Ezra explained. The old man was lost for words. After a while, he asked, Why kicked when you knew I am not an enemy? That was my way of bragging. The prince said as he smiled. The black-dressed old man's eyes widened. Ha ha ha. This boy is amazing. He is cockier than I was in my youth. At least there is someone who got my characteristics in my bloodline. This time Ezra was confused. What do you mean? Who are you? Ask your father. The old man said as he touched his short gray beard. Ezra gave a look of confusion to his father, who sighed before saying, He is Feroza Zephyr. My father and your grandfather. What? I have a grandfather. The prince was shocked. It was due to Your Highness. Chief Administrator Pollard Whitefong has come and seeks the audience. An imperial guard interrupted Mirza before he could speak. Bring him here, said the king. A well-built figure walked in from outside the great doors of the inner castle. It was an aged man wearing full noble clothes. He had a face full of scars and wind seemed to accompany his steps. Pollard arrived and knelt. Greetings. Your Majesties, he said as he knelt. Pollard raised after Mirza ordered him to and looked at the new face. When his sight landed on the red eyes, he shouted, Prince Ezra. You came back. Haha, yes, Uncle Pol. Took you a while to recognize me. The prince smiled. Pollard looked at Mirza Zephyr. Your Highness. Kingdom of Warborn has attacked the border city of Vili after Ezra went to train. Tension rose between borders. As Mirza Zephyr was busy in secluded cultivation, Pollard gave the military command to supernovas after training them about tactics and warcraft and became administrator to handle the kingdom's affairs in King's absence. His position was switched from Imperial Guard Commander to Chief Administrator, a rank below King and Crown Prince. He was the most trustworthy companion of King Mirza. Well versed in both sword and pen, Pollard looked at Mirza, asking if he should continue in front of Prince Ezra. It's okay, Pollard. You can start explaining. He is now old enough to understand the matters of the kingdom. King said. Pollard nodded and continued. Your Majesty. Warborn Kingdom has always been our enemy ever since it came to exist 20 years ago. There have been ongoing skirmishes on borders all the time. But recently they have been targeting Vili City. Because once they conquered that city, they will be able to get their hands on coal mines. If they succeed, our economy will be affected a lot. All they want is to keep us engaged in battle so that we can never rise again. They only attack us while maintaining a good relationship with other. Those Kaftars always hated us werewolves. Now they got their kingdom. They always pick fights with us. Without any reason. There has been a report that they are hiring a great number of mercenaries with the high cost to attack the Vili city. Vili is a stronghold city. I worked on it for 5 years. Once it falls, we will be vulnerable. Apart from agriculture and coal, we do not have anything worthy to sell to traders and other states. Silence covered the entire room. I will go and kill them all. I'm healed. No, Dad. Your existence will cause a ruckus, said Mirza. Why can't you go and declare all-out war with them? Ezra suggested. Haha. Well said, grandson. I second you. Feroza spoke as he clapped his hands, praising Ezra's suggestion. Pollard sighed. It's not that simple, Your Majesties. Warborn Kingdom is on equal standing with us in terms of military. If we wage war, we will lose a lot even if we manage to win. When that happens, the Tribban Kingdom will launch an attack and clean sweeps our forces. Ezra Zephyr raised his eyebrows. Wasn't the Tribban Kingdom our ally? No. It never was. After we lost the war, Brownmane Empire was made and they allowed the existence of 2 new kingdoms. Warborn Kingdom and Tribban Kingdom. Both were given 1 major city and 2 small cities. They are minions of the Brownmane Empire. Only made to keep us in check. After the oath, Brownmane cannot attack us directly. But they can aid other kingdoms to attack us. Pollard explained as he touched his forehead. Lightning flickered out of nowhere, shocking all who were present. The wrath of Ezra reached heights. His furious eyes were spitting flames of vengeance. I will personally go and reclaim those territories. How will you do it? The king asked. And the question was not asked in worry, but was asked to learn about the strategy. Mirza believed his son more than anything. Prince gave a wicked grin and moved forward. He pressed the shoulders of Pollard and said, "We will take the benefit of oath as well." Everyone present was confused except Feroza Zephyr. He somewhat grasped the hint of what Ezra meant. "I do not know why you are so scared right now," said Feroza. "Did you already forget about the cubic pills? We have martial masters even if we go rampaging to both kingdoms. We will emerge victorious." The old man completed his set of words and went back to sit on the rocking chair. We thought of that as well. But is it good to reveal our trump cards so soon? We are waiting for sex admissions to open, answered Mirza. Oh father, leave those things to me. I will give you the results you want. There are a few conditions. The werewolf prince spoke. A few conditions? Ezra sighed and strolled around Pollard. He continued. Give me the highest military rank and authority to move the entire army, and no one will question my way of conducting tactics. Not even the king. Unless or until my actions cause damage to the Bloodfang kingdom. Only then I will be answerable. That's all of my conditions. King of Bloodfang kingdom squinted his eyes and looked at Pollard. The latter nodded. Are you sure, grandson? This is no trivial authority? Feroza warned. Ezra turned his head to look at his recently known grandfather. The kingdom was already dying grandfather. The blessings I received are what kept this kingdom alive. Do you really believe that I just unlocked my 8 gates in those 5 years? That kick was more than enough to understand what hell I had to cross to come back. Pollard intervened. Crown Prince, if we wage an all-out war, we won't be able to save the kingdom's wealth and the people will face starvation. Boy, ask them about the ring you gave. It had sufficient wealth to feed the entire kingdom for 2 decades. Fenrir said to Ezra. The Crown Prince remembered the ring as well. Starvation. How is this possible? Where did all that wealth go? Ezra looked at King Mirza. Father, did you spend everything from the ring? The ring? Mirza furrowed his brows in question. Yes. The ring I gave you on the pyramid. The one that had cubic spirit pills boxes. Ezra reminded. Wait. I gave that to your mother, saying it's Ezra's gift. We haven't touched a single thing from that. I went to secluded training and forgot about it. I'm cutting my blood ties with you, said Feroza. Let's go, grandson, or you'll catch his mild mental retardation. It's possible. Now with the wealth of ring, we can go on a war with the Warborn kingdom without worrying about economic crises. Pollard replied. So what's your decision, father? Inquired Ezra. Quietness covered the room for quite a while before Mirza broke it. Chief Administrator. Issue the imperial order. The vacant position of Chief of Army Staff has been bestowed upon the Crown Prince of Bloodfang Kingdom. Ezra Zephyr. As you command, Your Majesty. Pollard answered as he bent his knee. Chief Administrator. Bring all of the cubic spirit pill holders. Not even one should remain behind. Even if they are at their death doors, they must answer my summoning. When Ezra used the words chief administrators instead of Uncle Pole, Pollard understood that it was an official order. Yes, Your Majesty. I'll be on my way, the chief administrator said prior to leaving the room. Now the 3 generations of sovereigns stood alone again. Ezra looked at his old grandfather and continued where it stopped. Why, I was unaware that my grandfather was alive. Why did you lie to me, father? I feel betrayed. Mirza Zephyr forwarded his steps and stroked his son's hair. No, my silly son. Amidst the battle with Brownmane, father, who was king at that time, got a terrible wound by the powerhouses of Brownmane. Many old friends of my father betrayed him, and the Lion Men tribe, and those who didn't, died miserably. Everyone assumed that your grandfather is dead. But he managed to keep his life intact. So we went with the flow and hit him. Otherwise Brownmane would have never taken that oath. All these times father was sick and weak until you gave me those miraculous bottles for Tanya. Syrup of Asclepius. Ezra stated. Yes. Syrup of Asclepius. I gave the whole bottle to father and he recovered from his wounds within 4 months. Ezra's eyes widened. 4 months. How terrible the wounds were. Mirza glanced at his father. Feroza nodded and took off his shirt. Ezra's eyes almost came out in shock. From the belly button to his neck was a giant nasty hole-like scar. It seemed as if someone had dug out his organs with a shove. His arms contained severe slash cuts. "I'm sorry, father," Ezra said as he lowered his head. Hey grandson. I am as sad as you are. Unable to meet my only grandson because of my health condition. What could be worse for a grandfather? But you. You changed that course. You are the one who has changed the unchangeable destiny of werewolves. Be proud. Spare the despair for betrayers. Feroza said as he hugged his only grandson. Grandfather, what is your cultivation stage? I am at peak of 5th level of nascent soul stage. My injury influenced my cultivation a lot. A trash with lame excuses. The monstrous wolf commented and the prince ignore it. Ezra then asked his father, what about you, father? I am at the early 1st level of nascent soul stage. Ezra said with a smile. Finally a decent one in your family. Fenrir commented again. Oh, and I am one of those who you have summoned. I consumed the 6th grade spirit pill. Should I come as well? Crown Prince? Feroza giggled as he said. That's a relief, grandfather. Ezra said. A relief? That's his wastage of precious cube, however you see it. Fenrir retorted. Looking at his father, Mirza guffawed. Haha, who would have thought that the canine fists have this childish side as well? Canine fists is also a human. You know. The old man retorted. Is that your moniker, grandfather? Asked Ezra. Feroza put both of his hands on his waist. Huh. Yeah. A moniker from the past. I dislike fighting with weapons, so I used gauntlets to fight. Earned me the title of Canine Fists. Gauntlets are weapons too. I believe. Ezra corrected. Who said that? It's not. I'll kill whoever thinks of gauntlets as weapons. The Canine Fists got fumed. Run, son. The old man is crazy again. You hit his weak spot. Did Brownmane give him a concussion? No. He's crazy since his birth. Aw shit. Run, father. Both son and father ran out of the room. Chief Administrator issued the imperial order and it was sent to all 3 cities in the Bloodfang Kingdom. The populace was shocked to see this news. Some disagreed. Others thought the kingdom is on its death doors. Only one tribe of beastmen race has full trust in the newly appointed chief, the tribe of werewolves. The day passed quicker for everyone and with the next rising sun. All the alive inheritors of cubic pills gathered at the vacant grounds outside the city except for Feroza Zephyr. Of course. Thousands of people on the site. Ezra Zephyr on a royal carriage. Wearing the well-designed long coat with wolf shoulder plates. A perfect image for a ruthless handsome general shown in novels. Ezra sat on a chair while the 9 supernovas stood behind. Where is the report? Ezra asked and Rocky came with a document in his hand stored in a scroll. The Crown Prince opened it. Out of 14 pills, 9 were given to supernovas and 1 went to my grandfather. 1 consumer couldn't control the change and die. TSK. What a pity. That remains 3. Zulfi Dimitri, Argus Waska and Shafapista. After mumbling all that is written, Ezra gestured and said, call these 3 Zulfi Dimitri, Argus Waska and Shafapista. Come forward and pay your respects to Crown Prince and Chief of Army Staff. Rocky's voice rebounded like an echo. 3 young people came forward and bent their knee. A youngster with good facial features and black hair spoke. I am Zulfi Dimitri. Age 18 years. Your Highness. It is an honor to meet our savior. I use the sword as my weapon because our King Mirza is also a swordsman. The youth's words were full of enthusiasm. As he smiled in joy. Another person came forward. Argus Waska is my name, your majesty. I am 19 years old. I acknowledge Canine Fists. The previous king as my idol. Our family has a strong build and we fight using gauntlets or bare fists, just like Sir Canine Fists. It pains me that he passed before I could witness his greatness. Ezra giggled and mumbled, just say gauntlets are weapons, and he'll show you his greatness. Pardon. Your majesty? It's nothing. Well done, Argus. Next. A lady came forward. She had pretty and slender looks, with a single long ponytail. I'm Shifapista. 20 years old. Your Majesty. Oh. She is a quiet one. Ezra pondered. She has a really nice body and that face is kissable. Fenrir said. Fenrir didn't wait to reply, she is so G to take the D. It's better to spread her legs before someone else takes the first bite. She is only useful that way. Fenrir spoke again. They had 6th grade spirits and could only reach the peak of chi brightening stage in 5 years. It was then that Ezra looked at their cultivation. Ezra gritted his teeth as he uttered. You only achieved the cultivation of peak chi establishment stage. Did you take my blessings for granted? Black bolts of light flickered. And the chaos force touched the chair, crumbling it into pieces of twisted wood. Your Majesty. There is a reason. Rocky shouted. Ezra glared at him with a side eye. Supernova Rock Whitefang. Right now, I am a crown prince and chief of army staff. Nothing more or less. Give me a reasonable answer, or I will show my wrath without paying heed to old memories. The chill in his eyes terrified the youngster who came. For some reason, even supernovas felt threatened. Black lightning. The imperial family is famous for having fire-type chi. How did His Majesty get a bolt of black lightning? It's not ordinary lightning. It's different than chi. Supernova Yanni Galearms pondered as he witnessed the force. It was the order of King. Your Majesty. Rocky answered. The anger of the werewolf prince calmed down a bit. Father's order. But why? For the sect admission. Only those who are within the chi establishment stage and are below the age of 25 can enter the sect admissions. Father ordered them all to not break through to core formation stage until admissions. The king also ordered to give 6th to 4th grade cubic pills to teen werewolves and gave 3rd grade to old imperial guards. His H. Rock Whitefang explained. Father want us to join a sect? Ezra asked. This subject does not know His Highness' intentions behind this order. Boy. It's a blessing in disguise. You can build your power in both empire and sect. Fenrir spoke. But still. Your Majesty. We also received a report that Crown Prince of Brownmane Empire has joined a sect 5 years ago. He's still there and hasn't returned to Empire yet. Said Maria Coldbone. A sharp-minded female supernova. The atmosphere changed around Ezra Zephyr. His eyes gave a deadly glare. He clenched his fists. And cracking sounds could be heard from his clenching. What wonderful news it is. A sinister grin formed on his face. Document containing the report was torn into pieces by his lightning. Supernova Rocky. Give me verbal information about rest. As you wish. Your Majesty. Out of 419 consumers, 5th grade cubic spirit pills, 393 were able to overcome. As of 2000 4th grade pills. We have 1912 survivors. All of them are werewolves. As for the 3rd grade. There were around 7,000 pills. 905 out of 991 Imperial Guards excluding supernovas were able to consume the pills, while the remaining 6,000 were distributed to teenagers of different tribes. Like kobolds, fauns and centaurs who swore their loyalty to us. From which 4281 survived. The total number of martial masters made from cubic spirit pills is 7,503. Including supernovas and excluding Chief Administrator Pollard Whitefang. The eldest supernova gave a brief report. We lost so many kids. I can feel their mothers' disgust towards us. Ezra commented. That's not it. Your Majesty. A small sacrifice is needed for the greater cause. A boy of 16 age from the Fawn tribe spoke from the ranks. Fawn equals sheep/goat with the humanoid body. The prince drove his sight on the ranks and caught the speaker. Who are you? O brave resident of this kingdom? The fawn boy flinched when he heard the prince speaking to him. I am. The boy panicked and started to stutter. Ezra smiled and walked towards the boy. He was a small-looking kid. And his legs shook more as Ezra came close. The boy closed his eyes. The previous impression of Ezra stuck fear into everyone's hearts. What is your name? Little brother? Ezra said gently. Wayu. The prince called him little brother. Did you see that our prince is so handsome? I'm in love, I wish our prince call me little brother as well. The teenagers started whispering. Each had their own piece to say. The boy looked at Ezra Zephyr and said. I am. Amio Tegans. What a nice name. You are not a werewolf, yet you said something that outshines you more than others. The prince praised the fawn. It was something my mother said. He replied. Oh. Your mother? Did you ask her about it? My little sister also took the pill. My mother said we must contribute to the kingdom. But my sister couldn't handle the spirit and exploded. The face of the boy was smiling, but deep down every word he said had a tremendous amount of pain. Hearing those words, Ezra closed his eyes. He imagined the sight of that girl. It gave him goosebumps. He opened the tightly shut eyes. He held the hand of the fawn and knelt before him. Your Majesty. My prince, crown prince. What are you doing? Everyone jumped to stop the prince. And the well-maintained lanes were disturbed. The eyes of Ezra became wet. He couldn't look into his eyes. Ezra gathered the strength and asked, what was the name of your sister? Her name was Accio. She was stronger than me. I still cannot figure out how she failed. Please forgive her, Your Majesty. The fawn's words were like poisonous arrows for Ezra. The prince shook his head, no. It is I who should be sorry. I will repay every single drop of blood and pain to those who made us suffer. Saying that, Ezra stood and released his spirit. The gigantic wolf emerged from chaos force and howled. The dominant power of lightning, together with Fenrir's howl, was more than enough to boost their morale. Ezra shouted, we will launch an all-out attack on the Warborn Kingdom today. With the setting sun, we will march forward. All 7503 of you will be the one to reclaim the land we lost to those hyenas. His voice echoed. Everyone yelled their heads off. Their cries were akin to trumpet of war. The enthusiasm was sky-high. Except for some. The 9 supernovas were surprised. The prince's sudden declaration of war forced them to judge his mentality. For 5 years straight. They only focus on 3 things. Cultivation and chi skill. Combat experience and war tactics. Unlike others, their sole purpose was to serve as military generals for the Bloodfang Kingdom. And they had every right to doubt that decision. Your Majesty? Rocky spoke. Ezra didn't look at him and answered, I know what you are going to say. I will explain the detailed strategy. Bring those 3 with 6th grade spirit. I will explain how will we attack. Rocky silenced and looked at his fellow supernovas. After a while, as ordered, Rocky brought the 3 and came to the prince. Ezra arranged a round table. All 12 sat on their seats, while Ezra stood at the front. Dear generals, as you all witnessed my declaration of war with the Warborn Kingdom. Rocky raised his hand, Your Highness. Am I allowed to speak? Yes. Brother Rocky. Prince smiled and said. Rocky stood from his seat, showing courtesy. My prince. It is a bad decision according to my knowledge. Our economy will receive tremendous damage and we will be weak towards other nearby kingdoms. Our total number of troops is 1,000,000. All are common men except those who 7503. The prince answered without pondering a bit. Does any other kingdom has that number of martial masters? His answer was packed with a question. No one spoke. Quietness covered the meeting room. The prince smirked, I consider it as a no. As of the problem of economy and wealth, the issue has been solved. The chief administrator has given his permission. Rocky squinted his eyes and thought, but Your Majesty. Brother Rocky. Are you more experienced in warcraft than chief administrator? The tone of the prince changed. I am not only the crown prince, but also the chief of army staff appointed by the king himself. As for my authority, I am only answerable to the king. Your behavior is a question to king's judgment. Rocky quickly bent his knee. This subject has committed blasphemy. I will receive any punishment for my gaffe. Ezra stepped forward and raised Rock Whitefang with his hands. You are a powerful asset of our kingdom. How can I punish you? Just put trust in me. Rocky nodded respectfully. You may sit now. Ezra said as he continued. Tell me about the Warborn Kingdom. Their numbers of troops, martial masters and their power ranks. As Ezra asked. Yanni Galearms stood. Your Majesty. May I? Sure. Yanni. Ezra permitted. I had a hunch that there will be a war soon. So I already gathered sufficient information about our enemies. There is a total of 3 cities in the Warborn Kingdom. Their main task is to hinder our growth by continuous attacks on our borders. Our kingdom is at the southern edge of the continent, and towards our south and west is nothing but ocean. The land continues from east, north and northwest. We have the Warborn Kingdom in the north and northwest and the Tribban Kingdom in our east and northeast, blocking our trade routes to other kingdoms and empires. We can only trade with commerce guilds and merchants who visit us. Warborn is the kingdom of beastmen. After Brownmane Empire destroyed us and drove us towards the very corner, they gave these 3 cities to those beastmen who rebelled against us as a reward. Their current king is Dongi Bushtail, a were-hyena. There is a long history of werewolves and were-hyenas. They used to be bandits. Out of their 3 cities, one is a big city Tyr, which is the capital of the kingdom, while the other 2 smaller cities are Foam and Bishnagam. They have sent the majority of their forces towards Bishnagam to attack our city of Vili. Ezra mumbled, enough loudly to be heard by others. Exactly, Your Majesty. To attack Vili city and get their hands on our coal mines. They have a total of 1,000,000 common troops, with 8 generals. All of the generals are at foundation establishment stage. As of their level, I am not certain. Apart from them, they have 500 men special unit called Bloody Hyenas under the command of the Crown Prince. All of them are at the core formation stage. Note, common troops or common men is the term used on those who have first grade or second grade martial spirits. These martial spirits are versed in fighting, cultivating and meditating. People with these martial spirits are called common. They either do chores and business to feed the family or join the army as cannon fodder. The most dangerous one is the king himself. He is old and cunning. I learnt that he battled our previous king Canine Fists many times. He is at the 3rd level of nascent soul stage. 2 generals are present in Foam City. 3 generals are in the capital city Tyr and the remaining 3 generals together with Bloody Hyenas are in Bishnagam, preparing to attack us. That is all, Your Majesty. Yanni explained every single important piece before sitting back in his seat. Very well. Ezra smiled and continued, we will attack tonight. Prepare to move. The small army of martial masters clumped towards the northwest. The darkness overlapped the sky. It was the first day of the month. The crescent moon couldn't brighten the land. And a few guards were stationed at the city walls. "Ah man. I want to join the war too." A soldier yawned as he spoke while stretching his arms. "Who doesn't? We missed the chance to earn a name and wealth. The Bloodfang Kingdom is already on the edge of destruction. Why the commander appointed us to guard the city? They are not fools to attack us when their best interest is to defend," said another soldier. "We cannot object. 2 of the 8 commanders are here as well. They'll slice our neck if they hear us, yeah." "You are Rig. Hey. Did you hear something?" A soldier flinched. "What? You hearing things now?" The indolent soldier retorted and closed his eyes. "You look so ugly in sleep." A strange female voice came. The soldier jerked and opened his eyes. His fellow wall guard was pierced through the chest by a female in armor. "What?" Before he can speak, the spear sliced his head off. The 4 supernovas Axa Milani, Hubdar, Sharpclaw, Momendo Croffy, and Helson Ironskin attacked the 4 walls. They stealthily came and killed some of the guards without making a sound. But 4 couldn't kill all without being seen. A guard who saw the assassination jumped off the city walls, yelling, "Walls have been attacked." He was killed before he could hit the ground. How can a common man escape from a martial master? The 4 landed on the city and dashed towards the gates, killing mercilessly all the soldiers and guards. They successfully reached the chain driver and lifted the portcullis. It happened in a sudden. The soldier in the city bell tower noticed the attack and climbed to the tower. Momendo Croffy saw him through a small window located in the chain driver's room. He picked up a spear of a dead soldier and held it in hand. And with a firm foot thump on the ground, he threw it towards the soldier. The spear pierced the air and space as it hit the soldier's waist, who was a few feet away from the bell rope. The spear tore him in half. 4 explosions and 4 gates were destroyed. The army of Bloodfang Kingdom breached the gates. It was at this moment that the entire city knew that they are under attack. The 2 station generals who were drinking together the explosions and rushed outside. They looked everywhere in disbelief until their eyes were locked on the southern gate. A man in a black suit, with wolf shoulder plates and blood eyes, entered the city riding on a blazing red pony. "Greet your prince, stupid bandits," the prince of Bloodfang Kingdom uttered. "Werewolves. Red Wolf family. One general muttered. The other quickly ordered, send a messenger to the capital. Bloodfang Kingdom has invaded Foam City. General. Our city has been surrounded. We cannot move. The soldier reported. God damn it. Send aerial pigeon and stealth owl. The soldier hurried to write and sent the message through aerial pigeon, who is known for speed, and stealth owl that has the ability to hide from the gazes. But little do they know that their messages will never reach their destination. For supernovas were inside the city wreaking havoc, while the other 5 were hidden in the surroundings, making sure that no news of attack reached the ears of other cities. All messenger birds were killed by them. How could they escape from Foundation establishment stage cultivators? Kill every single soldier and martial master, but do not harm the civilians. Ezra ordered his troops. The current Foam city was flooded with civilians. As the Warborn Kingdom sent the majority of troops towards Bishnagam, they evacuate the citizens from that city and sent them to Foam. Foam has around 10,000 common men army, with a total of 6 martial masters. 2 generals at Foundation establishment stage and 4 wall commanders at core formation stage. With the order, the angry troops slaughtered the troops. The heat of battle. Some civilians died as well. A general with a white beard, named Bizek, held his sword to defend the soldiers. As soon as he darted up, I felt something coming from his side. He was hit by a spear. Where do you think you are going? You ugly old fart. The one who attacked Bizek was Axa Milani. Hee, your hair turned white and yet you are at 3rd level. Axa giggled. She revealed her powers. A tall rocky mountain. Stiff and scary was her martial spirit. 6 orbs rotated on her back. She was at the peak of the 6th level. Everyone who saw had their eyes wide opened. 6th grade spirit. Who are you? Asked Bizek in surprise. A loyal subject of Bloodfang Kingdom. She answered before attacking again. The other general was younger than the other. His long greasy hairs were gray. He observed the invaders. He rotated his sight everywhere. All of them are martial masters. Thousands of them are teenagers. Was this possible? Bloodfang is supposed to be weakened. He asked himself. After pondering for some moment, he shouted, "We surrender." His voice was clear and loud, but still. The battle wasn't stopped. To be precise, it was not a battle, but one-sided slaughter. Stop. A voice echoed and all weapons were halted. Ezra slowly marched on his blazing red pony towards the general. Say that again. The prince ordered. The Werhyena general gritted his teeth before shouting again. Foam City surrenders to Bloodfang Empire. Ezra looked at him in despise and said, "Fulfill his wish." Axa tightened her grip on the spear. "Spear Alp," she whispered. A mountain-sized spear formed above Bizek. It came down like a meteor. A thudded explosion and Bizek turned into a pile of meat. Skill. A chi skill of special class. Nailuum was astounded again. The battle was solved within half an hour. It would have ended sooner if they didn't have to spare the civilians. Civilians were separated. Only 2,000 out of 10,000 soldiers remained alive. Ezra ordered his soldiers to bring all dead bodies and pile them together. The survivors were standing near the pile of dead bodies. The soldiers did as asked. Ezra closed his eyes. Soul absorption spell. He mumbled. A gigantic circle with black lightning flickering in it occurred, covering 1/3 of the city. It became more complex and brightened as minutes passed. Ezra struggled to control the massive size of the spell. All allies were looking at him with their mouth agape. His Majesty is a martial sorcerer. Axa mumbled. What is this? What are you doing? We have already surrendered. General Nailuum said. All the dead started to emit balls of energy. It had a slight nature color hue on it. General Nailuum and others couldn't move at this point. The dead were silent. However, the alive 2,000 were screaming like their skin was being torn apart. Their painful cries made the civilians tremble in fear. Some even peed their pants. Thousands of balls merged and made a huge globe. The globe slowly moved towards Ezra. The strange energy was slowly absorbed by the prince. After quite a while, the entire globe was absorbed by Ezra. His eyes opened, and his force became destructive as his body was filled with an abrupt amount of souls. With a gigantic wave of force, everyone pushed backwards except supernovas. Ezra broke through first level of the chi brightening stage and reached the second level. The alive 2,000 died as well. And the terror of Ezra reached new realms. Their souls were tasty. Let's see how their martial spirits are. The werewolf prince uttered as he released his martial spirit. The monstrous wolf of Norse made his appearance. Looking at him, all werewolves bowed their heads. They remembered his form. Mentioned in poems as god. The black lightning clattered around it. And Fenrir opened his mouth. All the martial spirits of the dead were sucked out of them. After a person dies, his soul and martial spirit remain in his body for 24 hours. The black hole in Fenrir's mouth acted like vacuum and sucked the spirits from its dead hosts. The entire thing terrified every spectator, especially those who were martial masters. Not even in ancient books there was written about a spirit that devours other spirits and a martial master who devours souls. __________________. Meanwhile, Rocky and others left their positions and went towards the next phase's location. So, this is the Bishnagam city. Our main target. Ivar mumbled. After Yanni explained everything about the Warborn kingdom, Ezra spoke. Amazingly elaborated. The long speech made me dizzy, but it was worth listening to. He sighed and announced, "We will attack the city of Foam. That's the less difficult city to conquer with our current manpower," said Axa Milani. Good girl. You can speak as well. All this time only 3 supernovas have talked. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but Foam City is a feint. Our main target would be Bishnagam, Your Majesty. Everyone yelled. How is this possible? A siege attack on Bishnagam with 7,503 martial masters and 0 deaths? Yes. I have a plan. Furthermore, if anybody yells again about my decision, I will dig out its eyes and shove them into its arse. Everyone flinched. And the atmosphere around Ezra changed. Black lightning twirled. And chaos force came into action. It's me who made you what you are. Don't cross your limits. If I ask you to jump into the lava, then you must jump. No hows or whys. Do you understand? Ezra placed his palm on the round table. With a little bit of chaos lightning, the table started to tremble. In no time, the table was twirled, torn and broken into a twisted chunk of wood. The eyes of all who watched widened as they looked at Ezra in surprise. The 3 young ones gazed at the prince in awe, while the supernovas who knew the former prince stared at Ezra in fear. Subsequent to beholding the result of angering Ezra, everyone lowered their head. Some were ashamed because whatever the prince said was true, whereas few were afraid as well. I will explain the plan now. The 5 supernovas inspected the surroundings of the castle. Stealthily. The city was crowded with soldiers and mercenaries. Rocky's eyes widened as he saw some figures on the wall. Humans. Not mere humans. They are martial sorcerers. Yanni corrected. Between the cultivator and sorcerer, the latter was unique and fewer in numbers. They are deficient in close-range battles. However, when it comes to long-range spells, sorcerers wield the power to turn the tide of a battle. This will be more difficult than we've anticipated. The walls are tall and embedded with magical items. It would be nearly difficult to siege the city. Yanni, who collected the necessary information about their enemies, thought of these sorcerers as dangerous variables. We have a martial sorcerer here as well, Maria Coldbone said as she gazed at her younger brother, Bilal Coldbone. Bilal was the only sorcerer among the 9 supernovas. His mother was a human. 2 siblings were from different mothers. The girl was a pure-blood werewolf and was born with a chi-based spirit. However, the cross-blood boy inherited a magic spirit mostly found in humans and elves. These 2 are second-circle sorcerers, Bilal said indifferently. HRMM. Yanni squinted his eyes before saying, let's inspect the other sides and report back to the prince. The rest nodded. Yanni Galearms was the vice-commander of previous Imperial Guards. His fighting instincts and power was undeniable. But, be that as it may, he was renowned for his brains. Not brawls. Every supernova had a speciality. Yanni's distinctiveness was quick and rational decisions. His calculation and strategy never failed him. When Ezra declared war on Warborn, unlike others who panicked and planned to talk with the prince, Yanni Galearms made a beginning on how to win. The civilians were trembling in fear. They were witnessing something inhumane. After devouring the souls and spirits, Ezra gave a strange order. No. It was an evil order that sent chills to his allies as well. Nevertheless, the order of Ezra was absolute. He was the holder of 2 supreme ranks in the Bloodfang kingdom. The order was horrific to an extent that those who saw couldn't control it and puked. Some collapsed at the sight. The group of 5 future generals arrived after inspecting Bishnagam. Tak. Carrot, they heard something. What are these noises? Maria asked, am I the person you should be asking? Sis? Bilal retorted. Maria giggled before they entered Foam. They were eager to give their report. However, a strange sight was awaiting them. Rocky's hair rose in a fright. Ivar was perplexed and the smart Yanni had his eyes widened. Maria's heart pulsed. She couldn't spit out her words. Bilal held her hand and pressed it, helping her sister who was terrified. For an unknown reason, Bilal was the only one who was not shocked. It worried him as well. What the hell are you doing? Rocky cried. She abruptly liberated his body. Rocky turned his eyes direction and gazed at Momin Dokrafi. Momin. What the hell is this? This? Momin wanted to speak, but he lowered his head and gritted his teeth in regret. Answer me. Crown Prince. Momin only spat out 2 words and the atmosphere changed drastically. What? Prince ordered this. Ivar asked in confusion. Yes. But. Why? Momin shook his head, gesturing that he is unaware of the reason before saying His Majesty is waiting for you inside the chamber of City Lord. Rocky's mind was devastated. How could an innocent and kind kid like Ezra give such an order? He asked himself in disbelief. The 5 quietly followed Momin towards the City Lord's chambers. There they saw the remaining 3 supernovas. Hubdar and Helsin had disgusted looks on their faces, while Axa smiled at them. Anything new around Bishnagam? She asked. Her tone was normal, as if she was unaware of what was happening in the city. Axa. Do you know what is happening in the city? Rocky, who was most angry amongst all, asked. Yes. I do. Axa answered right after. That made Rocky madder. How can you smile after allowing that? Allowing that? Are you telling me to oppose the Crown Prince and Chief of Army Staff's order? His Majesty is from Red Wolf family. They are god vassals. I would rather slit my throat than disobey his command. Axa answered. The smile on her face vanished. She was not happy with Rocky's behavior. Rock Whitefang's eyes widened as he listened to the words of Axa. He looked into the sky and took a deep breath. Sigh. Indeed. I let my emotions run wild. I am ashamed of myself. I doubt the man who gave me something even a father won't give to his son. We should get going. His Majesty is waiting. Momin broke the strange atmosphere with his words. Raped to death and around 120,000 went missing. 11,000 reached at sex slave traders. Your war was against us werewolves, yet you violated entire beastmen. Not a single tribe on our side was spared, and you want mercy? There was a rage in his eyes. Bloodshot eyes gazed at her. He closed his eyes and murmured. Fenrir, why are you forcing me to commit such crimes? There is no difference between those savages and me at this point. This was the advice of Fenrir, who calmly responded. Who said there isn't any difference? There is, and a big one at that. Ezra pondered before asking what it is. Fenrir grinned, revealing his sharp long fangs. You would be way crueler than them. Your epic will make Satan envy you, you bastard. Who is Satan? Focus on the scene. Don't ask too many questions. Ezra hummed and opened his eyes. Thor reached and tore her brazier. He could have caught her in seconds, but he intentionally let her run. Maybe. Ezra is not the only one who is crazy. His face formed a lustful grin as he witnessed the body of Werhyena. With another jerk, her drawers were torn. She had olive skin. And her breast was big. Each side can fill the thirst of a wide hand. Soft and plump. Thor slowed and lowered his head down to her neck. Her body violently fought back, but a mortal could do nothing against a martial master. Thor undressed. Without worrying about his arse being seen by others. He held the needy female by her hands. Her naked body glowed as city lights reflected on her sweat. He opened his mouth, hap. With a tapping sound, he dropped his mouth on her udder. The fluffy and soft breast in his mouth drove him to another world fop. The soft chunk of meat forcefully dropped from his lips suction. If one could describe the wiggle of her mamilla. He would describe it as a wave of the calm lake produced after being hit by a pebble. But it was not so dreamy for the female. Her legs were spread, and a crevice was visible. His cobra raised his head, prepared to invade the nest of a feeble bird. The head entered the cave, without a bit of mercy, to plow the land, bumping uglies, to blow air with the bellows. Funny how many phrases there were for seizing the moment. Being a bookish kid, Ezra knew them all, but he never had been an embodiment of any of them. The cries of the lady were mixed with moans. Does she have a hardcore fetish? She seems to be enjoying the punishment. Soon after the work has been done, the naked man stood while the woman was laying on the ground. There was no strength left in her body. Thor sit on his buttocks and dragged her towards him. Huh? What are you doing? You nasty animal. She cussed. Her mind and body were battling for control. The strength of Thor compared to the lady was not surprising. He picked her up and landed her on his Johnson. Stop it please. It's hurting. She cried. But this time, she was different. There was a yes in her no this time. Right on my flagpole. Lady, Thor said as he shoved his tool into her pool. The sound of their intercourse was like one has run out of ketchup and is pressing the bottle to spit out a little more. Soon after the work has been done as she ejaculated. Her squirt sprinkled all over Thor. For Ezra and some others, it was fun watching. As for others, it was horrific and terrorizing. The residents hid their young girls behind the elders. There were hints of shame and anger in some of Bloodfang's troops, but no one dared to raise a voice. Come here, Thor, said Prince. The young man dipped in sweat and squirt came and bowed. What weapon do you want? Prince asked. I use dual swords. Your Majesty. Thor answered in respect. Any particularity? Yes. Your Majesty. Both swords should short and curved. Thor defined. After some moments, 2 short swords emerged in his hand, covered in a flash of blinding light. The light vanished and everyone saw the treasures. 2 short swords, slightly curved and extremely sharp, having a crescent mark on the hilt. Ezra stood and bestowed the swords on Thor. I, Ezra Zephyr, hereby bestow these swords upon Thor Gale arms. The name of this sword set is Loyal Crescent. As the name suggests, it's a reward for his loyalty towards the Crown Prince. Thor bent a knee and raised his both hands, showing his palms. I, Thor Gale arms, accept the rewards. The atmosphere changed. Envy and regret were visible to other masters who missed the chance. Thor respectfully looked at Ezra and said something. Only a few were able to overhear, and more than half of them were astonished. This is your wish, Thor. Do as you like. You have my permission, said the prince as he smiled. Thor stepped towards the half-conscious lady. What? That monster doing it again, that poor soul will die sshhh. You fools. Do you want the same fate as her? Shut up. The residents murmured. Thor lowered his head and kissed her neck and whispered. I swear on my family's name that I will make you my concubine. His Majesty has given his permission as well. Rest here for a few days. I'll come to take you. A few drops of tears fell from her eyes. She opened her mouth to say something, but her body was exhausted. It's okay. Sleep for now. Thor tapped her head and the lady closed her eyes as she went asleep. In the middle of the night, turmoil befell Foam City. The residents were ordered to vacate the city. Crying, running and panting, the residents ran towards Bishnagam as if the Soul Reaper was right behind them, swinging his scythe. With the rising sun, many fell to the ground, exhausted and lifeless. All the sane and conscious refugees heard the sound of mounted troops marching towards them. Ah! Did they change their mind? No. It's from the opposite direction. It's reinforcement. Warborn Kingdom has sent troops. They were right. The humanoid people, riding on hyena beasts, arrived. A man with brownish skin at the front dismounted from the hyena beast. He wore skulls around his neck and tight clothes, reflecting his good-built muscles. That's the Crown Prince Atra and his bloody hyenas unit. Someone shouted. Indeed, they were bloody hyenas. A unit under the Crown Prince, full of martial masters. Atra gazed at the man who recognized him and said, You. Come here. The muscular man with red eyes and black hair jolted towards him. He seemed happy that the next king of the Warborn kingdom called him. He was healthy for a refugee. Your Highness. I am here. What happened in Foam? Don't skip a single thing. Atra said. The man nodded and started the tale about how the werewolves conquered the city of Foam. He didn't miss a single aspect. Especially when it's related to the crown prince of Bloodfang Kingdom. The man showed him as much opprobrious as he could. I am not lying. Your Highness. You can ask any of the rest. Atra pivoted his eyes towards the rest and none shook their head. Everyone nodded in affirmation. These carts, Your Majesty. They will testify. The man said as he started to shiver. Horrific scenes displayed in his mind. The sudden change of fear confused the were-hyena prince. He came closer. Gazed at the carts. Dozens of sacks were in one cart. Dripping blood. Atra's eyes widened. I was wondering about this blood stench. At first I thought it was coming from wounded. But the stench is too thick. A female with black long hair spoke. She has visible wrinkles on her face. Trying to tell that she is old. Ma'am Zoja. The prince uttered as he looked at her. The lady looked at a man in the unit. Open it. She ordered. The man jumped off and did as said. Her status must be high for a bloody hyena to listen to her quietly. The man picked up the sack. Soaked in blood and untied the knot. As the top of the sack was opened. A nasty malodor invaded his nose. The were-hyena couldn't bear the smell and puked. The sack slipped from his hand and fell down with a dull thud. The sack tilted. Their eyes almost came out. Are these our tongues? Someone asked. The volume of refugees' cries raised. Seeing a sack full of tongues. They recalled what they saw in Foam City. Hey! Get a hold of yourself and open another sack. She said. But the man was not in the condition to answer. She clicked her tongue and went to open it herself. But before she could reach, another individual reached the cart. Prince Atra stood beside a cart and pulled out another sack. He opened the knot and threw it on the ground. The ears of his country's soldiers scattered. He gritted his teeth and picked another. The one with eyeballs. Each sack had different parts in it. Fingers. Nails. Teeth. Genitals. Organs and whatnot. Seeing the sight. Even the soul of bloody hyenas quacked. Even in their days as bandits. They never humiliated a mass of dead bodies. The vein bulged on his forehead. Not a single one of them will be forgiven. Let's kill them in Foam City. Ma'am Zoja. The prince said. Anger overtaking him. Don't be silly. Crown Prince. Didn't they have thousands of martial masters? She replied. But. How can they afford such power? It's impossible. No matter how I think, I can't understand that either. They were even able to kill 2 generals of our kingdom. I knew Bizik and Nailuam. They were not weak. Let's get back to Bishnagam and lay out a strategy. The smart lady said. But ma'am. I want to kill them now. How will I face father if I fail to avenge my brothers? They have violated the code of war. The prince made up his mind. Prince. Listen to my advice. This is not. Shit. Zoja cussed while gazing in a certain direction. Huh. What happened? Ma'am? We are surrounded. She said. The eyes of Prince squinted as he gathered his chi to sense. There were thousands of people. Around 30,000 refugees. They surrounded the 500 bloody hyenas as soon as arrived. Amongst them were hiding 1,000. Imperial guards and supernovas in absolute disguise. How did you manage to avoid my sensor magic? It's my first time that such large numbers passed my sensors stealthily. She said. There was praise and regret in her voice. She praised her opponent's abilities while regretting that they'll die here. Ageless witch. Zoja. Am I right? A voice came from the crowd. And who you might be? She asked indifferently. A young man rose from crowd. I am Bilal Coldbone. 4th supernova of Bloodfang Kingdom. Supernova. Is it a military title? She inquired in interest. Indeed. Just like Warborn's 8 generals. There are 9 supernovas in the Bloodfang Kingdom. Zoja hummed. I'm very impressed. Such a young age and you are already a 4th circle sorcerer. Thank you for your words. But. I have to kill you here. Bilal claimed. Haha. You are funny. Are you capable enough to do that? I am at 5th circle. She guffawed before saying, "It is as you said. I am not capable. But I am not alone." The words ended and a spear was thrown towards Zoja from another direction. Zoja raised her hand. "Stop." A wave of air arose and the spear stopped in midair before it could reach the ageless witch. Zoja raised her hand. "Stop." A wave of air arose and the spear stopped in midair before it could reach the ageless witch. She looked at Bilal with a side eye. "Is that it? Well done. But what about others?" Countless spears were thrown and the unit composed of core formation cultivators decreased. Not all could block those attacks, whose location was uncertain. Imperial guards were mingled with refugees. They even wore the same attires as them. "Shit. Defend the attacks and break the encirclement," she yelled. "But ma'am, there are refugees." Prince spoke. "Fuck them. We have to survive first. Kill all in the way and break through. We will be wiped out otherwise." But it was not as easy as said. Unlike her, others were in a state of turbulence. Except for Zoja and a few others who were veterans. Remaining unit was inexperienced. Including Atra. They were strong but they never fought and felt the sensation of war. They only handled small skirmishes on the border. Another spear flew towards the prince. And Atra clenched his axe to counter it. "Your Highness. Be careful." The same red-eyed young man jumped forward to defend the prince. "You fool. Get back." Atra cried as he grabbed the man by his collar and threw him behind. He swung his axe to tackle the upcoming spear. His axe vibrated and his hand shook in response. "Atra. Stay away from that man." Zoja yelled. "Huh? Who?" Atra was puzzled. "You stupid bandit." The man uttered as a bluish light brimmed. A short sword pierced the abdomen of Atra. Blood gathered in his mouth. "Who are you?" "Your legitimate prince. Ezra Zephyr." The werewolf prince said before slicing Atra up to his jaw. The sword cleaved organs and bones alike as if it was cutting a piece of butter. It was Efsa. The sword made of items that are even rare in the higher realm. Atra fell to the ground. His blood made a puddle. "This incompetent was your crown prince? I believe my expectations were higher for a country of bandits." Zoja gave Ezra a deadly glare. "Don't be angry. Ageless bitch. I mean witch." He didn't think for a second how a mortal detected a spear thrown by a cultivator. "You should thank me for killing such failure." Haha. Indeed he was a failure. "But you won't be alive anymore." She curved her hands and a ball was cast. The ball grew 4 bat wings of air. "Bell of help." She raised her hands and the ball flew upward at tremendous speed. "This will notify everyone in Bishnagam. Soon the generals will arrive," she said with a happy grin on her face. Bell of help was a spell that has very small damage. But it has tremendous value in war. The mana is compressed in the ball through the forceful air magic. The mana particles fight against each other for space, creating a blasting sound. The ball can create 4 blasts resembling the chimes of a bell. With each chime, 1 batwing vanishes. The wing made of air will carry the chime faster than normal. 4 wings will travel in 4 directions. After the 4th blast, the mana ball will disperse and creates a light display, resembling an aurora. The chime will catch reinforcements' attention while the aurora exposes the location. Ha ha ha. "Let's wait then." Ezra chuckled. Zoja was puzzled. She looked at the bell of help above. The ball reached the sky and vanished. With no blast, no chime and no mana display. She looked at Ezra in bewilderment. "What did you do?" She was frustrated. "Well, you are not the only sorcerer who can use air magic." She turned his sight to Bilal, who was calm like a lake. "It's unacceptable. A werewolf with air magic. Ageless witch. What is your family name?" Bilal asked. Zoja's eyes twitched. "I have no family name. You are a human. It's acceptable for us beast men to not have any family name, but it's considered a disgrace for a human to not have a family name. Perhaps? You are a bastard daughter." Bilal hit the vital point. "You rascal. It's you who is a bastard. How dare you?" The mana raised in her body but she didn't attack. One mistake and she will lose her life. Oh. Then there remains only 3 more possibilities. 1, that your family is destroyed and it's forbidden to use its name. 2nd, you betrayed your family and they banished you. And 3rd, Mana rose abruptly in Bilal's body as he said. Third is when you betray your family and join hands with enemies, resulting in the annihilation of your family. Which one is your case? Zoja Wontir? Zoja's eyes widened. And her jaw dropped. She lost her rationality as she sputtered, How? How do you know this name? Who are you? You don't deserve to know that. Bilal declared. The surging mana downturned in her body. And she fell to her knees. Please answer me. You can kill me later if you want. You said your name was Bilal Coldbone, right? Tell me, Bilal, how? Coldbone. She recalled something. His body trembled as she looked at Bilal. Are you Ubis's offspring? The latter didn't answer. But the change of facial expressions indicated. She lowered her head. Your mother was a Nick. Before she could finish, an arrow pierced her heart. Blood oozed out like a fountain. Don't take her name with your heinous mouth. His anger was not hidden. With the death of Atra and Zoja, the entire unit crumbled short after. The 1,000-corps formation Imperial Guards mercilessly slaughtered the bloody hyenas. Subsequently, Ezra signaled and the remaining troops arrived at the scene. Only old Imperial Guards continued their cultivation and reached the corps formation stage. The young cultivators and sorcerers were told to halt their cultivation and meditation when they reached the chi brightening stage and second circles, respectively. That was the reason only Imperial Guards were allowed to disguise. After Ezra conquered the city of Foam, he ordered them to cut the dead bodies into pieces and fill them in sacks. This one order was beyond the expectations of everyone. But no one dared to oppose it. The violation of Were Hyena's female and everything else was part of Ezra's big plan. For others, Ezra was doing strategic work with the advice of supernovas. But in reality, everything was decided by Ezra and Fenrir alone. He asked for supernovas' views for formality, not make them feel unimportant. Warborn was the country that former bandits were ruling. So Ezra needed something extraordinary. Something that never comes to the mind of his enemies. The duo of spirit and host came up with a solution. A lead in a psychological battle. His original target was Bishnagam. But fighting an all-out siege battle on one front will make them vulnerable on the other side. Ezra focused on all the strong aspects of Bishnagam. And the most troublesome people he found were Prince Atra and ageless witch Zoja. Prince Atra was a young straightforward brute, who had the courage to fight until his body collapsed. He loved his people from bottom of his heart and disgusted the Bloodfang kingdom from the depth of his soul. Zoja was a special veteran and the only sorcerer in 8 generals. She was 55 during the war between the Bloodfang kingdom and Brownmane Empire 20 years ago. But her skin remains as that of 50 years. Some said she didn't age since the war, earning her the moniker of Ageless Witch. She betrayed her family over some fortunes and joined the Warborn kingdom. But her misfortune itself couldn't get the respect she deserved. Being a traitor and human in the kingdom of bandit beastmen, it was not that easy. Fortunately, she got the favor of Atra, the next king. She was tasked to protect and guide the crown prince. Some said they were secret lovers. After calculating everything, Ezra pinpointed them as the first to eliminate. He launched a well-planned attack on Foam and conquered it. That was the moment Fenrir's mastery of tactics came into play. The Wolf of Norse told Ezra Zephyr to cut and humiliate the bodies. They had to traumatize their enemies. Ezra did as suggested. Even after seeing the twisted and disgusting faces of his allies, he didn't budge a little. He packed the body parts in front of residents to maximize his fear. But a female dared to raise her voice. That was the perfect moment to silence the hidden voices. Fenrir said, and Ezra ordered them to violate her dignity in front of everyone. Her painful cries shook the strong wills. A man can bear suffering but cannot stand seeing the suffering of his loved ones, especially when they suffer in such humiliating way in front of the whole city. The prince succeeded and rebellious voices dispersed. Meanwhile, when Rocky and the rest entered the city, Ezra instructed Yanni to send a letter to Bishnagam. The Bloodfang kingdom has attacked Foam city. Their commander is Pollard Whitefang. They have 30,000 troops and a sorcerer who plays with fire, a long-range expert. Send Mam Zoja and bloody hyenas. They will be more than enough. Bizik. Yanni wrote a letter using the name of Bizik, the dead city lord and one of 8 generals of the Warborn kingdom. No one suspected the letter, because it had the stamp of the city lord on it and was sent by aerial pigeon. Neither anyone knew about the sudden change in Bloodfang's power. Mirza excellently performed his job to conceal every rumor leaking about changes in Bloodfang Kingdom. With the stamp of Bizek and no information about Bloodfang, they sent bloody hyenas and Zoja without paying any heed. At the same time, Ezra ordered the residents to run towards Bishnagam. In the middle of the chaotic disorder, veterans Imperial Guards disguised themselves and mingled with residents, including Ezra himself. He left all at Chi brightening stage in the city and brought those who were at core formation and higher stage with him. That was to avoid unnecessary casualties. Bloody Hyenas was a unit of 500 core foundation staged cultivators. Even if they were inexperienced, they were still well-trained martial masters, and their leader Atra was a heroic prince, benevolent for his people and tyrant for his enemies. Ezra and Fenrir messed up their minds when they see the mutilated bodies of their country's men. They lost their train of thought, which resulted in their demise. Zoja was also destined to die. She just made her death quicker and less painful. 2 people were counting hyenas. And as one looked at the other, he spoke. Do you understand now? The meaning behind these cruel orders of the prince? Do you? Rocky? Yanni Galearms asked as they both looked at the result of his tactics. Yes. But no matter how you see it, the actions were barbaric and unacceptable. Rock Whitefang answered. Yanni sighed. For a strategist like me, His Majesty's tactics is outstanding and marvelous. He used emotions to distract and diminish the enemies, while the death of Ageless, which was an exception, annihilating the entire bloody hyenas without a single casualty, is impossible. A feat of such caliber is unheard of. Are you confident to accomplish such achievement? Rocky didn't answer and scratched his head. Yanni tapped on his shoulder and said, Don't do anything that upsets the prince. He is not the one we knew 5 years ago. Let's go now. His Majesty is waiting for us. Both arrived where Ezra was. How many hyena beasts are alive? He asked Yanni. 293. Your Majesty, that's a good number. Ezra said and gestured towards the dead bloody hyenas. Pick 293 uniforms and armors. Tame these hyenas, and we will go and greet those in Bishnagam. A wicked smile formed on his face. Your Majesty, what should we do about these residents? Rocky asked. Ezra gave a tentative look at half-dead residents. Their faces were pale. They didn't eat or drink and kept running. Their brain and body suffered a lot. I don't know. I don't care. Fuck them or kill them. I'm handing their fate to you, Brother Rocky. Do whatever you want with them. Ezra said as he went to pick a tire of his size from dead bodies. Rocky looked at the leaving back of the werewolf prince and said, Yanni, I still think he is the same Ezra we knew 20 years ago. How so? He knows that I will treat these were hyenas leniently. Yet he hand over them to me. I have a feeling that Prince Ezra was waiting for me to speak, perhaps. You are right. His positions as Crown Prince and Chief of Army Staff are not dependent on his personality. Good or evil. He was our savior and will always be. Ani said. The prince smiled while his sight remained on dead bodies. The army of Bloodfang was ready to move forward. The 293 alive hyenas were mounted by the strongest of Bloodfang. Shall we go? Prince asked, looking at others. Yes. Your Majesty. Ezra received a uniform answer. The prince nodded and the fake bloody hyenas marched. A growling roar was heard. Almost everyone flinched. Hold on. What was that? Rocky cried. A beast? Axa said. No. A martial animal. Ezra corrected. Being in the timberland and surviving there for 5 years, Ezra's senses were delicate towards martial animals. We should ignore it and move as planned, Your Majesty. Martial animals are hard to deal with. We don't even know its tier. Yanni suggested. No. I have to kill it. Ezra said as he grinned. The prince had something else in his mind. Something more beneficial. With that said, Ezra and Supernovas rushed. Around 300 meters towards Bishnagam, they witnessed a beast. A brown bear, 2 meters tall, with crimson veins, popped all around its body. Its body was contrary to the norm of bears. Unlike the chubbiness, it had slight muscles. Mad Titan bear, Rocky said in an appalling manner. Ezra squinted his eyes. He read about Mad Titan bears. When a beast known as Titan Bear, a docile towering beast, evolves into a martial animal, it is called Mad Titan Bear. It has an innate skill that allows its body and power to increase as it gets angrier. The bear's eyes met the uninvited guests. It growled and stood on its feet, showing that he is about to tear them apart. It is a young one, Ezra guessed. It seems so. Normally a grown Titan bear is 16 meters tall, and a mad Titan bear can exceed when angered. This one is a baby. But how did a baby Titan bear evolve into a martial animal? Yanni looked keenly and uttered, "It's possible if it is born from an evolved Titan bear. Look at its skin. It's brown, not black like the rest of Titan bears. He'll prove to be much more dangerous if left alive." Now that you said it, we got another reason to kill it, Ivar said in his piece. Boy. The monstrous wolf of Norse spoke. Yeah. I know. The prince replied, "Move away. I will face him personally," Ezra declared as he stepped forward. No. Wait. Your Majesty. It's dangerous. Prince Supernovas shouted one after another. What? You think I cannot even kill a newborn martial animal? Ezra retorted. He was annoyed. We all believe in your strength, Your Majesty. But still, let us kill this one. If it's not killed in one shot, the trouble will only increase. Rocky advised. Rocky is right, Your Majesty. Cautiousness is better than regret, Yanni added. The bear growled and marched offensively. It's an order. Do not disturb me, the prince said and went to meet the mad Titan bear. The rest watched with their heart in the palms of their hand. The bear raised his paw, and the claws protruded and descended on the young prince. Dust rose. It was an impact powerful enough to kill a second-level chi brightening stage cultivator. Ezra. Rocky couldn't watch the prince who grew in front of him like a younger brother getting crushed by a monster. He lost control and his chi burst out. Stop. I'm alive, the prince said, shocking everyone. Bilal Coldbone used air magic and scattered the dust away. The eyes of Supernovas widened at what they were seeing. Ezra blocked the blow by raising his arms. He didn't move, nor parried it. I am disappointed, he uttered. Huh? Did he say disappointed? Rocky was bewildered. Black bolts flickered. Ezra clenched his fist, and the lightning danced around his mitt as it closed the distance between the werewolf and bear. The punch acted like a drill. The mad Titan bear flew a few feet away. Its abdomen was twisted, and blood painted its teeth and commissures. Ezra's chaos force was attached to mad Titan bear's abdomen, and with each second the pain heightened. The bear fell and growled in agony, even though in tremendous pain. Its eyes were glued on Ezra. It glared like an enraged monster seeking vengeance. This one is too weak, Ezra silently said to a certain someone. What do you expect from a week-old martial animal? Fenrir replied. A week old? I thought it was a few months old at least. No. This martial animal is a newborn cub. Kill it. An infant martial animal is very rare to find. Ezra hummed and summoned his armaments. Efsa in his right hand and Dripa in his left. Bear looked at the sword and hook. It knew its time has come. His will to live battled against the growing pain and defeated it. A crimson-colored energy surrounded the bear's body. The veins pulsed like ritual drums, and the black lightning tormenting its abdomen dispersed. The mad Titan bear's height grew around 7 inches, with slight bulkiness in the body as well. That crimson energy was its force. The baby bear was enraged, but contrary to what Ezra expected. The bear took a step backwards. Ezra's eyes widened. Is it afraid? He pondered. No. He is not afraid. He is cautious, Fenrir corrected the prince. Ezra smiled in satisfaction. I read that mad Titan bear after being enraged lose their fear and sanity. A gain and a cost. But this young one only has gained no fear with intact sanity. Ezra dashed forward. Mad Titan bear swung its paw. Sharp claws cleaved the air. Before it could hit Ezra, something else pierced the paw. Dripa. The poisonous hook penetrated it. Painful cries made the mad Titan bear more indignant. He tried to pull out the hook, but it was stuck. The little blades on Dripa adhered to the bones. The young bear pulled its arm, intending to break away from Ezra, but it couldn't budge the grip of the prince. Painful cries made the mad Titan bear more indignant. He tried to pull out the hook, but it was stuck. The little blades on Dripa adhered to the bones. The young bear pulled its arm, intending to break away from Ezra, but it couldn't budge the grip of the prince. Nevertheless, the bear didn't stop its struggle. "Do you want a tug of war?" Ezra said sinfully. "All right then. Let us check who wins this." The prince tightened his grip on the hook and pulled it with a jerk. The huge bear flew in an arc and slammed into the ground. Mad Titan bear let out a distressing growl as its back hit the solid ground. Its paw was penetrated, and Dripa's poison scattered and merged in its blood. Its arm felt like it has been poked with a myriad of needles. The bear was a cub, not even a youth. There was a limit to its newborn body's endurance. Fighting that much against Ezra was still a feat on its own. The bear cried and rolled back and forth. His arm was still stuck with Dripa, and the one wielding it was Ezra. The prince moved his right hand, and the bluish gleam emitted by Efsa the short sword enlivened the pageant. The sharp Efsa came into being for the sole purpose of cleaving everything and anything. It pierced its way into the throat. The bear glared at Ezra in detest. "Huh? Are you really a week-old?" Ezra said as he waved his hand sideways, slicing the trachea and carotid arteries. The body of the mad Titan bear trembled. The cub couldn't breathe. Blood oozed from the gash and mouth like a crimson fountain. A dull last growl and the shaking body of the mad Titan bear ceased to move. The dry ground turned into a puddle of blood. Ezra gazed at the dead bear and uttered, "Soul absorption spell." Circle formed. Chaos lightning crackled on it. And from the body of the mad Titan bear came out a ball and went inside Ezra's chest. "What a strong soul!" Ezra exclaimed and gazed again at the dead bear. Now the main event. Ezra raised his hand and spoke menacingly. "Answer your master." Just below the bear, a pentagon formation was drawn. Supernovas watched in amazement and horror. They saw 5 strange symbols on each side of the pentagon. They couldn't see the symbol of chaos at the center, because the bear's body was placed at the center of the formation. The 5 symbols of death, blood, curative, teleportation, and soul sorcery gave out their unique colorful hue. Chaos lightning thunderclap at the center. Ezra felt his force power being sucked, and in the next moment, the dead opened its eyes. The mad Titan bear raised on its feet, and crimson-colored force surged in its body. With the sudden roaring growl of the bear, all supernovas flinched unintentionally except for 2. Rock Whitefang, who wanted to save the prince, had firm control of his nerves, and Bilal Coldbone, who was blank and curious. Others weren't afraid. Each one of the supernovas could kill the second-tier martial animal with their higher stages. This cub was the first tier. They flinched because they witnessed something unexpected. "Your Majesty, I am coming," Rocky yelled yet again, prepared to jump at any second. "Shut it, you stupid." Bilal Coldbone, who didn't blink his eyes for once, inadvertently scolded his senior Rocky. Being a sorcerer, he had an idea of what was going on. Unlike Rocky, who was concerned for the prince, Bilal became inquisitive about his sorcery. "Don't be hasty, Rocky. His Majesty is all right. The martial animal is first tier. We can save His Majesty at any time," Yanni Galearm said. Rocky turned his head towards Bilal. The words of the air sorcerer angered Rocky. But what Rocky saw made his rage vanish into thin air. Bilal's eyes were red. His eyes widened at the highest limit he could achieve, and his eyeballs moved rapidly in 3 directions. He looked at the formation, then gazed at the bear, and then stared at Ezra. This cycle was repeating at a fast speed. Rocky sighed and mumbled, "I forgot he is a philomath maniac." The bear stood on its legs. The wounds on its body healed. It came towards the prince, and supernovas alerted themselves, but were stopped by Ezra. The bear bowed down before Ezra, shocking everyone. There was a small pentagon printed on its forehead, only to be seen at the close. Its eyes changed as well. They were now crimson, just like Ezra's. "You were a boy. Very well. From now on your name is Kaver," Ezra said. Note: Kaver is a word of the Sindhi language. That means anger. Kaver gave a thunderous roar, stronger than ever. He looked at supernovas and growled, "Rar. Rower. Rior." Kaver said, "No. They are allies." Ezra replied. Or, no one else understood the words, but they knew that the bear was disappointed. "Did it talk to you?" Your Majesty? Axamalani asked. Yes, what did he say? He asked if he could eat you all. He is hungry, oh. Axa said and looked at Kavr sinfully. The bear felt a strange chill. Ezra ordered everyone to move back towards the rest. Was it black magic? Your Majesty? Bilal Coldbone spoke. Ezra squinted his eyes as he heard this. Oh. This young one knows about black magic. That's a surprise. Fenrir commented. Where did you hear that name? Ezra asked curiously. There was a book in the library called Ancient Lost Magic. It was about black magic. A magic that has power over death. Are you a black sorcerer? Your Majesty? Bilal asked. Snoopiness dripping from his expression. A magic that can alter death? Momin asked. Not alter. It is a power that works on the dead. And yes, I am a black sorcerer. Is there any problem with that? Supernova Bilal? Ezra spoke dominantly. I knew it. Our prince is a godly sorcerer. Bilal cried loudly and knelt. Please. Teach me about magic and formulas. Your Majesty, is he the same quite Bilal I know? Maria. Does your brother have dissociative identity disorder? Ezra asked the Lady Supernova. No, Your Majesty. He always acts like this when he is excited. Oh, okay. Your Majesty. Fuck, the supernovas and prince arrived. Ezra's first undead was behind them as well. All the dead bodies were gathered on one side. Ezra called his martial spirit. The gigantic wolf of Norse emerged and opened his mouth. The martial spirits of 500 bloody hyenas and Zoja were devoured by Fenrir. The lightning flickered. And Ezra felt his force getting stronger. The lightning was chaotic to the extent that even supernovas were wary of it. The chaos force had a strange power. The black lightning stick to the prey and crumble it until the prey removes it. Just like Kavr faced continuous torment until he got rid of it by using his force. Ezra opened his mouth and spat 3 words. Soul absorption spell. The circle formed and souls came out in balls and were absorbed by the werewolf prince. Separate the Warborn Kingdom's prince and female sorcerer. Ezra gave an order. The subjects did as ordered and they separated the 2 important figures from the rest. Ezra looked at Kavr and pointed at the remaining 499 dead bloody hyenas. That pile of meat is your meal. Eat at your heart's content. The mad titan bear went without delaying a second. Saliva dripping from its mouth. Kavr picked a dead body and slammed it on the ground. With a powerful slap, the deceased head was torn and his brain fell out. Kavr ate the brain with utmost happiness as if he was eating the tastiest food in the world. Brain and heart. Favorites of martial animals. Yanni mumbled. Martial animals don't cultivate or meditate. They just eat other martial masters and get stronger. The entire body of a martial master is full of nutrition for a martial master, but the most fruitful parts are the brain and heart. The brain is responsible for every action. It gives slight intellect to the martial animal. However, the heart is different. A cultivator's chi core and sorcerer's mana pool act as their power container. They are formed in different places in the chest. They cannot be formed somewhere far from the heart. A heart pumps the blood to circulate and form an energy basis close to the heart, allowing the martial master to infuse energy into it, keeping it healthy and powerful at all times. So when martial animals devoured a heart, their force increases a lot. That's why they always eat the brain and heart before other parts. After munching the brain, Kavr used his sharp claws to tear open the chest of were hyena. He pulled out the heart. The blood already formed with dull red patches and a stale smell. Kavr held the heart in his hands and one mouthful bite and half of the heart gone. The feast was scrumptious for Mad Titan Bear. Kavr threw the body and pulled another one. Ezra looked at him. The cub looked back at Ezra and pleasantly growled. Minuscule pieces of the brain could be seen stuck in his jaw. How cute. Ezra commented. Hey. I'm sorry to bother you, but can you tell me from which angle that grizzly bear looks cute? My shit nearly left my arse when I looked at it. Someone from the residents of Foam asked in the crowd. Shut up. I have already pissed when it roared. Other answered. Kavr was a new being now. The soul in his body was a fragment of Ezra's soul. This was the marvel of a spell called Fenrir's Blessing. Prepare the hyenas. We will move now. Rocky announced. Taming hyenas wasn't difficult. They were ordinary beasts. The preparation and plan were completed and 293 werewolves marched. At the border of Bishnagam, a mage saw a wave of dust. He squinted his eyes to get a clear image of what was coming. His sight landed on the flag. And the mage recognized it. Bloody hyenas are coming, he informed a soldier. The bell rang and gate guards were ready to open the gates when ordered. The third circle mage on the wall saw another storm of dust behind bloody hyenas. Oh shit! All the generals! He yelled. The sudden shout of a mage put the city in disturbance. An old man arrived. What happened? Isco asked. He was one of the 8 generals and lord of Bishnagam city. Lord Isco. Look over there. Mage said. Lord Isco's eyesight was much better than Mage's. He was at foundation establishment stage. Open the gates! Isco cried and jumped towards the incoming bloody hyenas. The ruckus caught the attention of the other 2 generals and they jumped out as well. The prince is heavily wounded, save the prince, help us. Werewolves have brought reinforcement. Lady Zoja is killed. The fake bloody hyenas didn't fail to make them numb. Another tactic to fool the opponents. What? Zoja died? Isco astounded. Kill them all. Don't let the prince run away. A loud roaring voice of Rock Whitefang. You mutts dared to kill our prince. Ziha. Protect the prince. I and Taskina will kill those ignorant bastards. Isco said, and the other 2 generals of Warborn Kingdom nodded. The generals arrived to save their prince. Rocky clashed with Isco, and Ivar blocked the other female general named Taskina. Ziha reached bloody hyenas and looked at the prince. Give him to me. And follow me inside the castle. When Ziha picked the prince in his hand, he knew the prince is already dead. Ziha went inside the city, together with bloody hyenas, and sent a signal to the other 2 generals. Isco and Taskina were shocked. They have never thought that there would be such young foundation establishment experts in the Bloodfang Kingdom. When they get the signal, the duo tried to retreat. But to their misfortune, they have already fallen into the trap. Maria and Axa came from behind and halted their retreat. You are destined to die outside the city. Stop wasting our time and come here. Ivar said as the other 3 supernovas laughed in mockery. You are destined to die outside the city. Stop wasting our time and come here. Ivar said as the other 3 supernovas laughed in mockery. Isco looked at them in bewilderment. How did Bloodfang own 4 foundation establishment experts? Who backed them? These questions came into his mind. Amidst the question, there was a thought. His eyes widened as he gazed towards the city. He wanted to stop Ziha, but the bloody hyenas were already inside. We are deceived. He uttered. Yes. I believe we are. Taskina replied and continued. Our safety should be our priority. Bishnagam is certain to fall in the hands of Bloodfang. We won't be able to escape from our enemies as well. 2 males are at the 7th level of the foundation establishment stage, while the girls are at the 6th. Both of us are at the peak of the 6th level. We cannot stop them, nor can we run. But Isco looked at Axa and Maria with a side eye and extended his words. We can at least kill one of them. I am worried about Ziha. Taskina said something irrelevant to their situation. Me too. Let the god decide his fate. Ziha was astounded as well. He could see the 4 experts surrounding his fellow generals. He wanted to jump out and fight. But deep down in his heart, he knew how strong the enemies are and that he won't be given a quarter by them. He was looking at them when he felt an attack coming. His body jerked subconsciously to block the incoming attack. He looked at the assaulter. A young man with cold eyes floating in midair. Dozens of arrows made of air spun. The tip of the arrow acted like a vortex, spinning fast enough to drill a hole in the finest steel. 2 arrows were released. They came at astonishing speed, tearing the air apart. 2 swift swings with the sword and the arrow stopped. Barrage of arrows was hard to defend for Ziha. He looked at his sides and found bloody hyenas. Hey you! Distract the sorcerer. So I can kill him. Warborn will remember your sacrifice. I'll go. Someone jumped from bloody hyenas with a sword in hand. You fool. Why you are coming here? I said to distract the sorcerer. Not me. Ziha shouted in anger. But I want to distract you, said the man. The man wildly swung his sword down as he was about to land near Ziha. What? The attacker met the defender. The sword of Ziha collided with the man's sword. The hand of Ziha shook out of impact. Another Foundation establishment stage cultivator? The man spoke. I am Hubdar Sharpclaw. One of 9 supernovas of Bloodfang Kingdom. The baffled Ziha was already injured by Bilal's arrows. Its blow shattered his will to fight. He knew his only chance is to bargain. How much Bloodfang has offered you? I will give you twice. No. Thrice the prize. Including the status of general in the Warborn Kingdom. We are not hired by Bloodfang. We are born in it. Bloodfang is our motherland, and you are traitors whose names are written with blood in our history books. Hubdar answered. What? You were born in Bloodfang? Did you become a Foundation establishment stage cultivator in resourceless Bloodfang? How rubbish. Ziha scoffed. Hubdar's eyebrows twitched. Chi rose inside his body and let out a powerful wave. 6 orbs rotated behind the back of Supernova. He revealed his spirit. A daunting wolf with razor-like nails and fangs. Ziha fell on his buttocks. Sixth grade martial spirit. Isco was battling against Rocky, while Taskina was busy defending the blows of Ivar. They were waiting for a chance. And the chance came quicker than expected. Ivar held his greatsword and walloped Taskina. The Lady General flew towards Axa Milani. Isco now. Taskina cried. Isco humphed and released his spirit. 4 orbs rotated on his back as he pushed Rocky away by releasing his spirit. Kill her, he said. They both were planning to get near Axa. During the fight, they slowly moved as they blocked attacks. Both unleashed their spirits. Taskina also had 4th grade martial spirit. A strange tree. While Isco had a mosquito-looking martial spirit. So you were aiming for me? Axa sighed. Azure sword. A long purplish-blue sword emerged from Isco's chi. Lifeless aggress. A strange chi, shapeless and gloomy, waved its way towards Axa Milani. The girl calmly looked at the incoming duo attack. A disgusting expression formed on his cute face. Why does everyone think I am the weakest one? She was upset without a doubt. Her chi went out pour. It rose sky high. And it had a thick appearance. A gigantic rocky mountain was shown. And 6 orbs went around in circles behind her back. Isco and Taskina looked at her with their mouth agape. The 2 attacks reached the female supernova. She uttered 2 words. Spear Alp. A spear of mountain size befell on a couple of generals. Their skills were destroyed by Spear Alp. Taskina couldn't dodge and succumbed to death on spot. However, Isco managed to dodge the attack somehow, but he didn't make it out safely. Both of his legs were gone. And his mouth was filled with blood. How? Did you get a special grade cough skill? Isco's body was numb. Too much of his blood was lost. He coughed blood as he spoke. Axa pulled him by his hair and spoke, looking straight into his eyes. That's not important right now. The important thing is the knowledge that I am the sturdiest supernova out of all. And you mongrels considered me as the weakest one. Even Rocky and Ivar failed to break my defense. Didn't you see the gigantic mountain? It was my 6th grade martial spirit called Hulking Eminence. Before you too. There was another general who died at my hands. Do you still think I am weak? Huh? Answer me? Axa. Ivar interrupted. What? She retorted. Think he is dead. Brother Rocky. Let's not practice with Sister Axa anymore. Ivar said to Rock Whitefang. Rocky gulped and replied. I was thinking the same thing. That girl went from being cute to criminal real quick. Ziha was looking at the 2 supernovas in astonishment. It's time. Everyone. To move out. A voice came from the bloody hyenas. And all the bloody hyenas threw their armors and tore their uniforms. Inside of which was their official dress. The uniform of Bloodfang military. The voice belonged to the Prince of Bloodfang Kingdom. You were not bloody hyenas? Ziha's mind went blank. Ezra answered the question, we are bloody hyenas. What are you talking about? It's just that we are a new batch. New members and new prince. He gave a wicked grin. Kill him and send the signal. Ezra gave his orders. I'll handle him. Hubdar Sharpclaw said to Bilal Coldbone. As you wish. I'll send the signal. Bilal said as he left. Hubdar looked at Ziha and then changed his sight towards the sword he was holding. Hubdar threw his sword towards Ziha, who happened to lose his sword in the middle of shocks. Ziha was less witted than the rest of the generals. That was the reason Isco and Taskina were worried about him. Why are you giving me your sword? Ziha asked. Pick it up and fight me. The supernova replied. Ziha stared at the empty hands of Hubdar and thought it could be a trap. Where's your sword? Ziha shot his words. I don't use a sword. That's not my weapon, said Hubdar as he showed his hands. He was wearing a pair of gauntlets. He moved his fingers and sharp claws emerged from them. This could be my chance to escape. Ziha pondered. He knew that Hubdar was stronger in cultivation, but what other option he had except this? Ziha held the sword tightly and dashed forward. Hubdar marched ahead as well. The metallic sound of the sword clashing against gauntlets was gratifying. Whenever the edge of the sword hit the claws of Hubdar, numerous sparkles were forced to be produced. Ziha made some distance and slashed horizontally. Hubdar tried to block it. Huh? It was a feint attack. The real attack from behind was a vertical slash. Hubdar made an X with his arms. The sword struck the center and was blocked. Hubdar held the sword and kicked Ziha on his chest. The old general flew a few feet away and rubbed his chest as he balanced his footing. Thanks for the duel, Hubdar said as he went to end Ziha's life. Boom badum boom. Boom badum boom. Boom badum boom. The sound of drums was heard by everyone. Huh. What is this? Hubdar pondered. Ha 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 ha. His Majesty. It's His Majesty. The drums of were hyenas. King of Warborn Kingdom has arrived to take our revenge, Ziha proudly said as he laughed in satisfaction. Ezra heard the drums and jumped on a wall. His gaze landed on flags. Held by a large army. That's the main army of Warborn? Bilal, who just arrived on the wall, asked. Yes. They have King's flag as well. Ezra replied. King? You mean Dongi Bushtail came himself? Bilal was confused as he squinted his eyes. How did they gather such a gigantic army? Wait. There are 2 flags of King. His surprise grew. It's a coalition army of Tribban and Warborn Kingdom. Both kings have joined the fray. Ezra calmly kept looking. Bilal saw his prince's reaction and questioned in curiosity. Your Majesty. Was this in your calculations too? Your Majesty. What is happening? Hubdar cried as he hurriedly arrived. Can't you see what is happening? Bilal retorted. Hubdar witnessed the faraway sight and said, Shit. What should we do now? The werewolf prince answered. Run. Should we kill the common troops in Bishnagam? There are 30,000 troops here. Bilal suggested in an interrogative way. No. It will hinder our retreat. Fall back to the city of Vili and inform Father. Prince gave his order. The 2 supernovas didn't wait a moment longer and rushed away. The Imperial Guards, dressed as bloody fangs, were first to receive the order. They jumped on hyena beasts and ran outside. The order reached others as well. How did our attack information leak? We successfully went as planned, Yanni Galarms asked. He was puzzled. We can think of it later. Retreat is our top priority. It's a joint army of Warborn and Tribban Kingdom, Bilal said. Tribban? It's bad. The army of Bloodfang moved. The red blazing ponies glopped their hooves and the dust storm raised. They are retreating. Should I stop them? A tall bulky old man said. He was wearing full body armor, seemingly made of bones. His thick white beard and mustache made his lips invisible. The wolf skull helmet gave him an intimidating look. Nah. Let them retreat. It's easier to destroy them and their kingdom in one go. Another man spoke. He looked like someone in his 20s. A clean-shaved man with a handsome charm on his face. He was wearing an expensive royal dress with a red cloak flapping in the air. A few hours later, a certain individual showed up outside the capital of Bloodfang Kingdom, the Red Sky City. The red blazing pony collapsed at arrival. The pony panted laboriously and gave the impression that it will die in the next moments. The man who jumped off before the pony hit on the ground tapped the exhausted horse. You did well. Out of all, Ezra chose Bilal to deliver the message because of his air magic. The young cold-bone sorcerer could manipulate the surrounding air. He scattered the resisting air pressure and used the same air to push the pony ahead. Red blazing pony felt like someone has attached wings to his body. He ran faster and with the help of Bilal, the distance covered between each step of the pony increased threefold. As a result, they arrived incredibly fast, but that cost the life of the pony. A guard came running. Your Highness! Your Highness! Calm down, What's the matter? A man in black asked the guard as he rocked back and forth on his rocking chair. Ah. Your Majesty. The guard couldn't sense the old man's presence. He went, Your Majesty. I have urgent news for His Highness. The man on the chair was the former king of the Bloodfang kingdom, Feroza Zephyr. The guard knew the importance and authority of the man in front of him and delivered the news without hesitation. He is training. Tell me the matter. Feroza spouted. Supernova Bilal Coldbone is seeking an audience of King. The rocking chair stopped. Supernova Bilal. You said? Yes. Your Majesty. Upon hearing that, Feroza zipped out, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived at the corridor, where Bilal was waiting. The latter felt a strong presence and looked. He found the canine fist standing before him. When did he arrive? He asked himself. Your Majas, where is my grandson? Before Bilal could do the honorary, Feroza stopped him by asking about Ezra. Your Majesty. The prince will be arriving at Vili City. The coalition army of Warborn Kingdom and Turban Kingdom is coming our way. They have brought all their forces and they. Feroza bolted outside, leaving Bilal in the middle of his reporting. Just like before. Just when Bilal was gazing at the way where canine fists vanished, a female in stately costumed clothing came. Besides her was standing a vigorous hobgoblin. Bilal. Why are you here? The female was puzzled. And where is Ezra? She added. Your Highness. Bilal flinched at the sight and bent his knee quickly. Subject greets the Queen. Stand up, Bilal. Tell me why you are here when you are supposed to be with Ezra. Tanya Inviastus inquired nervously. Your Highness. We were attacking the Bishmagam city and almost conquered it. But Warborn and Turban came with joint armies to defend. What? Tanya cried and her legs wobbled. She suffered a panic attack. Ma'am. Please. Be careful. Hobgoblin Didera held the Queen gently, ceasing her from falling. Where is Master Ezra? Didera asked. Contrary to his expression, he was worried beyond the limit. Ma'am. Prince Ezra is safe and sound. Don't worry. I am here by the order of the prince. Bilal paced up his speaking speed and said. Tanya was not at fault. Any mother who sees her only son suffering from a curse for 15 years and to remove the curse her son has to disappear for 5 years and just after he returns, he has to go to a deadly war. These incidents are more than enough to give panic attacks in a mother at the mere thought of her son being hurt. Tanya gathered her composure upon hearing the words of Bilal and spoke. What were the orders of my son? They are for His Highness, the King. Ezra wants to. Mirza. Where is Mirza? Tanya asked furiously, cutting Bilal off. Ma'am. His Majesty is practicing. Didera replied. He is practicing when his son is in danger. The Queen uttered and stamped her way towards her husband. Bilal on the other hand was perplexed. Does the royal family always cut others before they finish talking? He asked the hobgoblin. To which the hobgoblin replied. More often than not. It was already evening, and the guards on the city wall saw a huge dust storm marching towards them. What happened? Did Warborn launch an attack? The guard asked. Yes. Send a messenger to Red Sky City and protect the wall. Another replied. The storm came closer and closer, and the guards' throats became dry in tension. They gulped the saliva to moisturize their throats. Sweat droplets dripped from their face as the storm moved at terrifying speed. Draw the arrows. Release at my signal. The guard who was appointed as temporary commander ordered. He squinted his eyes and they widened. Wait. They are not enemies. He cried, confusing the archers. It's our army. The one leading them is Supernova Rock White Fang. Before marching towards Foam City, Ezra ordered to let the guards of Vili City know. Because they were afraid and exhausted from continuous attacks from enemies. They needed something that can lift their morale. The one who went to inform them was Rocky. That's why he was leading the retreat while the remaining supernovas protected the rear. The city walls were opened for the new heroes. And the entire army went inside the Vili City. They gulped down the cold water and poured it on their heads. Not all of them had blazing red pony or hyena beasts. So the majority ran with their very legs. Thank goodness. They couldn't catch our speed. Maria sighed. No. They could if they had wanted to. They let us go intentionally. Yanni corrected her. Sir. What happened? Did you fail to conquer the city? The guard asked. No. We conquered the foam city. Yanni answered. What? Really? Haha, supernovas are outstanding, as expected of supernovas. You have made us proud. Dear sirs. Ha ha ha. The guards celebrated. Don't be too happy. They are on their way to attack Vili City. Yanni added. Doesn't matter. With you all here, who can defeat us? No? Ha ha ha, it's a 250,000 coalition army of Warborn and the Tribban Kingdom. Including both of the kings. Say what? Sir? Exactly what you just heard. The atmosphere changed. And their celebration vanished into thin air. They were not afraid of Warborn. With so many cultivators, they had an absolute advantage. But the problem was King of Warborn, Dongi Bushtail. He was a nascent soul stage cultivator, while the King of Tribban Kingdom was a 7th circle sorcerer. In the middle of the silence, a large explosion resounded, startling everyone. A voice came from the raising dust. Where's my grandson? In the middle of the silence, a large explosion resounded, startling everyone. A voice came from the raising dust. Where's my grandson? The masses looked at the strange man who just landed. All cultivators armed themselves in, however. The supernovas bent their knee and gave royal honorifics to the man. The subjects greet His Majesty. Everyone was mystified. They had never seen this giant old man before. Yet supernovas greeted him like royalty. Huh? His Majesty? But he is not the king. I have seen King Mirza before. Rocky loudly ordered. You fools. Show your respect to the former king of Bloodfang Kingdom. The one before you is none other than Feroza Zephyr. The canine fists. The eyes of the masses widened. Slowly, one after another. The entire city bowed towards the former king with an exception of 2. One was Ezra Zephyr, the other royal blood present in the city. The second was Argus Waska, the one who always admired canine fists. He went blank the moment he heard that the big man in black is the former king. He gazed at his idol until someone pinched his leg. Ow. Huh. I am really sorry, Your Majesty. He bowed as he stuttered. Feroza didn't even look at him and went straight to Ezra and hugged him. His giant arms engulfed Ezra in an embrace. And the latter was caught off guard. Never witnessed the love of his grandfather before. Ezra smiled and hugged him back. What happened, grandson? Did you succeed? Feroza asked. Yes, grandfather. Foam was conquered without a single casualty, and Bishnagam was right in the palm of my hand. Ezra spoke as he looked at his palm. He squinted his eyes in regret and continued. Somehow the news leaked and they arrived with full force to defend Bishnagam. Canine Fists curved his lips in surprise. Conquering a city without a casualty is unbelievably good. Even with many cultivators, you need a suitable plan to come out without getting a scratch. Ani is a good strategist. Indeed he is. Ezra replied. He didn't reveal that it was his plan. Bragging was something Ezra disliked. Who is that young man? A common soldier asked. I don't know. The former king is chattering with him frankly. Another one replied. He hugged him as well. Is he? Maybe our prince? No, our prince is ill. Aren't you aware of what happened 20 years ago? Yeah. Our poor prince. Not only these 2 soldiers. Everyone present was confused about this young man's identity. He had a unique set of attire. Fascinating and domineering. Especially the wolf shoulder plates on his long coat. Yanni Galearms spoke. Your Majesties. May I speak? Yes. You may. Brother Yanni. Ezra replied. We should prepare a strategy for the battle. Coalition army will be at our door anytime now. Yes. Let's go. Ezra said. The soldiers couldn't hold their curiosity, and one of them asked a cultivator. Excuse me, sir. Who is this young man? Ezra. Feroza and every other martial master looked at him. The soldier flinched. He asked in a low voice, but he didn't know that martial masters have enhanced senses. The cultivator gave an angry look. He is our only prince. His Majesty. Ezra Zephyr. What? Prince? The soldier shouted. Prince? Our prince? He is cured? The masses were bewildered. It was not their fault. Ever since his birth, Ezra never left Red Sky City. He rarely came out of the royal castle due to his poor health. No one has seen him. As for Feroza, the news of his survival was concealed. Only the royal family, chief administrator, supernovas, and a few trusted servants who were assigned to manage the castle's chores knew about him. An old soldier came from the lanes. His eyes were filled with tears. Prince. Oh, our beloved prince. I am very happy to see you in good health. His words were genuine. Following him, the 20,000 soldiers stationed at Vili City cried tears of happiness. Ezra was shocked to see such reaction. Feroza tapped his shoulder and whispered, "Say them hello, grandson. They are your people." Ezra smiled and his heart pulsed with strange feelings as he came forward. He held the old soldier who knelt seeing the prince approaching and raised him. "Thank you for serving our country. This prince is ashamed that he laid on the bed while you all protected the borders." No. Your Majesty. What are you saying? Your Majesty. It is our duty. We are proud of this country. You are our savior. Your Majesty. Don't say that. The emotional soldiers spoke from their hearts. Ezra was touched. It was then that Fenrir intervened. "Boy. Don't be attached to them." "What do you mean?" Ezra retorted. "In the world of martial prowess, emotion and weakness are the two different names of the same thing. Your enemies will destroy everything that you hold dear." Fenrir answered. Ezra hummed in silence. "I am not telling you to not respect them, but do not form an attachment. They will bear more torment if they become your weakness." Ezra understood the words. "You are right," he said as he paused for a moment before speaking again. "But don't ruin this moment now. I always wanted to feel this. Maybe just once. But I wanted." Fenrir didn't reply. After some moments of melodrama, the leading figures gathered in a big meeting room. Feroza put a noise-concealing barrier around the room. "What is the number of their force?" he asked. "Around 250,000 and with additional 30,000 soldiers who were at Bishnagam. Their total number would be approximately 280,000. Ezra, who witnessed the incoming coalition army, answered. "And how many martial masters?" "We killed 5 out of 8 generals of Warborn Kingdom, who were at the foundation establishment stage, and their 500 core formation stage elite unit of martial cultivators named Bloody Hyenas, and a few sorcerers who were stationed at Bishnagam." Feroza was awed. "You killed them all without a single casualty?" he asked. "Affirmative," Ezra answered. Feroza looked at Yanni with a big satisfied smile. The latter was confused about why Canine Fist smiled at him. "This achievement is worth celebrating, but we don't have spare time on our hands. But you all did well. I am proud of supernovas." The former king praised. Supernovas were moved. And the hero of the event, downfall of the Golden Empire and survivor of the noted biggest war of the continent, applauded them. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Supernovas bowed their heads. "What about Tribban Kingdom's power? How many martial masters they have and their level?" Feroza came back to the topic. This time, Yanni spoke. "We are unaware of them, Your Majesty. We had many skirmishes and small battles with Warborn, but we never clashed with the Tribban Kingdom. They only fought an economical battle against us. But I know for sure that they are much stronger than the Warborn Kingdom." "How so?" "Tribban is a human race kingdom. All the humans who lived in Bloodfang Empire moved to the Tribban Kingdom after the war. At that time, they were given the same number of cities as Warborn. But later, they conquered 2 more cities of Treelove Kingdom, a country of peaceful elves." Yanni explained. "Elves are not easy to be defeated. That proves Tribban is powerful. Our main priority should be common men. We may outnumber them in martial masters, but they outnumber us in population and common troops," said Rock Whitefang. "We must come up with a proper idea." "I have one," Yanni said. All who were present looked at him with questioning faces. "Parley," he said. "Oh. Parley. The very word who saved royal bloodline 20 years ago." Feroza said and smiled. There were many bitter memories attached to this word. "What will be our negotiation points?" Yanni pondered for a second and spoke. "I apologize, but I haven't concluded them yet. That's why we are here. Martial masters against martial masters," the werewolf prince uttered. Quietness covered the meeting room before Halsin Ironskin spoke again. "Will they accept it? We have the advantage in martial masters." Everyone nodded and waited for the prince to speak again. Ezra took a deep breath and explained, "Just like we don't know about Tribban's actual power, they shouldn't know about us either. 6th grade spirits. Survival of grandfather and father's 8th grade martial spirit. All these aspects are no less than a cheat. They'll only think that we got a backer in secret. Once they'll declare an all-out war, all the backers will step back. Because of Brownmane Empire. The warborn soldiers in Bishnagam would have informed them about martial masters who disguised as bloody hyenas. The only possible conclusion they'll come up with is that we received help from another empire to decrease the influence of the Brownmane Empire. So, they'll naturally receive help from Brownmane as well. Pretend to be weak and hit them off guard. This might work, Yanni commented. Ezra added. Appear weak when you are strong. Appear strong when you are weak. Let the enemies come to you when you are strong and when you are weak. Avoid the conflict. Calculate your power and your enemy's power before fighting. Know the terrain where you are going to fight. Do not fight in entangled terrain when your opponent has equal strength. Fight where the ground is open and you and your enemy have a path to escape. A battle can turn to either side. There is no shame and respect in battle. There are only advantages and disadvantages. Retreat when you see that you have become weak, and there is no pride in letting the enemies go when you have the chance to hit them hard. Know your enemies. Know their weakness, and you will never be defeated. The words of Ezra resounded in the listeners' minds like enlightenment. Where did you read that? Your Majesty? Yanni asked. What do you mean? These are my words. Ezra replied. The supernovas looked at him in awe. Canine Fists was no exception either. The quietness went on for a while when Ezra smirked. Just kidding. These aren't my words. I read in a book called The Art of War and memorized them. Feroza Zephyr guffawed. Ha ha ha. Well, where did you read that masterpiece, grandson? In a library. Many years ago. What was the book's name? Your Majesty? I have read all the books related to the military in the library. Yanni asked. Being a strategist. His interest primed. I believe it's in the Imperial Library. Only accessible to royalty. Ezra dodged the question. Yanni lowered his head in disappointment while Feroza looked and winked at Ezra because Feroza was aware that there was no such thing as the Imperial Library. What Ezra said was half truth and half lie. He was true when he said these weren't his words. But he lied when he said he read them in a book. These were the words of Fenrir, the monstrous wolf of Norse. The meeting progressed and they came up with the negotiation points. The darkness overlapped the sky. The tired martial masters stretched their beds as they fell asleep. For some reason, the young martial masters slept without a worry. However, the old imperial guards couldn't close their eyes. They knew the terror of war which was approaching. Time ran, and with the chirps of countless birds, the sun shined and sunlight hit the city of Vili. With the refreshing morning, the sound of a marching army came. But none people in the city panicked. Rather, they jumped for joy. It was the 100,000 fresh army of Bloodfang Kingdom. On the lead was the king of Bloodfang Kingdom, Mirza Zephyr himself, and behind him was Chief Administrator Pollard Whitefang and Martial Sorcerer Bilal Coldbone. The gates of the city were opened, and all officers came inside while the army remained outside. The subjects greet the king. May your reign last in eternity. The stationed soldiers saluted their king with the utmost respect. Ezra Zephyr was there as well to welcome them. His eyes saw Mirza Zephyr, and the happiness forced him to hug his father. Welcome in Vili, father. Ezra chuckled. You look handsome as always. My son replied with a warm smile as he disheveled the prince's hair. Just like he used to do when Ezra was a kid.